Good morning. Call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on the agenda is the minutes of the Special Strategic Priorities meeting held on July 10th and recommendations to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Lynch, seconded by Councillor Nicholson. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Item 2 is the minutes of the Strategic Priorities meeting held July 12th and recommendations to approve those minutes.
Moved by Councillor Rasmussen, seconded by Councillor Lynch. All in favour? Opposed? Carried.
Today is budget presentation day, and the first presentation is an introduction by the City Manager, Mr. Peter Stedlin.
Morning. I actually don't get to speak from up here very often. I kind of like it. We are about halfway through our budget discussions for next year. We all know that this is going to be a difficult budget year. You've received prior presentations from Sheena on a variety of big picture type issues, and now we start getting into much more the nuts and bolts of a variety of programs. As I said earlier, we're about halfway through. Background presentations have been given. Today and tomorrow, you're going to be receiving all sorts of very detailed presentations. Today is largely the departments, and tomorrow is largely the outside community groups. And then we have a full day set aside November 22nd for debates, discussions, decisions, those kind of things, and then we'll get into the bylaw stage. So that's sort of like the process that we have before us. It largely follows past years' processes with a few minor changes that have been discussed previously. So with those kind of very overview comments, I'd like just to get into the first presentation, which is the overview. One of the things that I always like doing when we do a lot of focusing on issues coming up next year, that kind of stuff. I always find it's good to once in a while reflect. And so as part of this, we're going to reflect just a little bit. And I asked all the GMs to just sort of like brainstorm, highlight at a very high level, in addition to what they do in terms of very detailed presentations, to think about the last year and to highlight at a very high level what we did good, or what the accomplishments were during the last year. We get so embroiled in all sorts of controversial issues that sometimes we lose sight that we made a lot of progress. I personally think we did make a lot of progress this last year, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about that just before we move on to the challenges in the future. And then each department, as they get up, they're gonna embellish and talk a little bit more about that as we go. And then once we talk about last year, looking forward, the priorities and those kind of issues, we'll get into next year's financial plan. We do have, following past practice, we do have the decision day coming up, and today is all about simply background. And so Sheena normally has all her decision sheets up, but she has drawn them up on paper format, and we've always thought it was helpful for you to have those right at the beginning so that you can make notes while you're listening to people. And so whether or not you're going to support something, not support things. So we don't have to follow those sheets exactly, but that's what Sheena put together in terms of what she felt would help you walk through the process on the 22nd. So these are just an advanced version of that. There's a number of things in there that she asks for decisions on that you may wish to defer. And I'm thinking now of the business priorities for next year. We did do visioning exercise with all the GMs. We did do some looks at what last year's approved business priorities should be and what the changes are. And we're recommending some changes. It's largely following the direction you've already given us, but we are recommending some changes. We probably think we need a different process, a different day to walk through that. So she's listed that as a decision point. I'm just highlighting that as one you probably want to defer until we have another presentation. When I look at the days coming up, I just can't envision us getting enough time to actually, brief you on that, unless you sort of like just see it and you're very comfortable with it. But what I'm envisioning is perhaps taking a different day, perhaps one of those workshops that we've got coming up, to spend an hour walking through that. But that will be up to you on the 22nd. There's some other decisions in there that you may wish some additional presentations on. I'm thinking right now there's an insurance decision to be made. You asked for some more background. It's in the binder. We're not going to be covering that through the departmental presentations, but we should discuss that in more detail. And so we can either do that as part of this budget process, or again, we can defer that to a different process, and we'll discuss that in more detail on the 22nd. So in terms of the details, I'm just going to cover off the council budget. There's a number of things that are in the council budget in addition to just the costs of running the council chamber and that kind of thing. And I'm not going to walk through in a lot of detail at this point what's in there. If anybody has any questions, we can certainly go through that. But just from a very overview perspective, when we look at everybody's costs and those kind of things, what we have challenged all areas of the city to do is to come up with a proportionate reduction. And we think it is fair for all sectors of the city to at least go through the exercise. It is council's decision at the end of the day. It advanced on its own. It is appropriate for all areas to at least identify something. And as I said, it's council's decision at the end of the day whether or not to approve those reductions or not. But all areas, including engineering, parks, police, fire, have gone through the exercise, and we're going to have some good discussions on that. On behalf of council, we felt it would be very fair just to look at your budget, and of course you can come up with alternate ideas, but we looked at your budget, and we are making a suggestion in terms of what should be reduced proportionally in keeping with all the other areas. And we identified that we're not faxing as much. We're emailing more and those kind of things. And we believe there's enough room in the fax budget to take a $5,000 reduction without materially affecting too much. So that's our suggestion on your behalf. If you've got a different suggestion, of course, that's up to you. So that's our suggestion in terms of reduction in terms of the council area. In terms of then my presentation, in terms of the areas that I cover, from my perspective, here's just a very brief org chart from the high level. As you know, I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the city, and the various staff all report through me. It's shown on the org chart. I don't think I have to go through that in any kind of detail. But what I would like to go through is just to talk at the very high level of what happened this last year. And as I said earlier, I believe it was a very good year. And we just, as a team, we went through and said at a very high level, let's just talk a little bit about some of the issues that happened. This is on automatic timer, so just. I talk too much, I know, but the first thing I'd like to talk about is we did receive quite a few awards this year. The GFOA awards, we received, I believe, three awards. And I'd just like to highlight that this is where other organization has recognized that Coquitlam has a lot of best practices, and we should be thinking about that and taking a moment and reflecting. And yes, a lot of the things that we do are best practices. They're recognized by industry-wide associations, and to me, that was a significant accomplishment for 2010. I'm actually very proud of the budget management system that we did both these last 2 years. We had a big hole 2 years ago, $5 million hole caused by the global recession, and that created a lot of angst in a lot of public sector organizations. I'm actually very proud of the way Coquitlam dealt with that. We dealt with that in a very effective manner by doing vacancy management and by doing a whole variety of approaches, and whereas 2010 wasn't as big a problem as 2009, it still was a significant budget hole that we dealt with effectively without dramatically affecting any of the services that the public sees, and I think we're all very proud of that. The third one I'll talk about along with the fire hall, which is about 5 or 6 down. and that is our building projects. 3 years ago, just under 3 years ago, I've been here almost 3 years now, which is, time flies when you're having fun. One of the two priorities that you highlighted for me was please build buildings better. We had some projects in the past that some felt wasn't conducted as well. And I have to say here today that I'm pretty satisfied. Actually, I am. I'm very satisfied with the way Maurice and the building team have been handling the building projects. There were two this last year. One just opened a week ago or so, which is the Poirier Sports Complex. That was built under budget way ahead of time, and it's in service now for the community at least 10 months earlier than we thought, significantly under budget. The other project hasn't received as much attention, which is the fire hall. We're gonna talk about the opening soon. It'll be scheduled for sometime in December. Again, Tony and Maurice have worked very closely on delivering that project, and as an administration, we are very proud that both those two projects have been built on time, on budget, and are giving very effective facilities to the community. The next thing I'd like to talk about is we have just embarked. We haven't got any visible reporting out successes, but we've embarked on this business improvement and outdated rules issue. We have a lot of procedures in Coquitlam that may have been very effective in their day, but does need a really good look at that. We're well into the process. A lot of staff are really excited about participating, discussing it. There's some apprehension about whether or not this really will come to be, and when they identify issues, will the organization as a whole have the courage and wisdom to actually follow through and actually implement some of those. I keep reassuring them that we will, that we are going to take this very seriously, and every idea that they come up with will be very seriously considered and publicized, and if it is not accepted, it will at least be explained why we can't do it at this point in time. We think that it's a process already started and is well underway, and that is why I'd like to think it's a significant 2010 accomplishment. The cyclical reviews. I think that's a best-in-class kind of approach. We started in on it because it came out of one of these discussions that Council asked us to get into a different kind of way of looking at the organization. And we have done 6 now. We've done 6 cyclical reviews, 3 the first year, 3 the second year. And I think each one of those, ranging all the way from parks and engineering this last year, and the permits area to the first year we did the environment issue and communications and land management. I think when I sit back and look at that, each one of those reviews resulted in a line-by-line budget review process looking at all sorts of details in the area. It ended up challenging the area in terms of can you give up potential savings, but it also, more importantly, looked at the organization and of that area in a very focused way, utilizing outside consultants and a variety of outside consultants and inside staff, involving both John, me, and Sheen in looking at the budget side of things, come up with a report, and each one of those resulted in a significant presentation, significant discussion before you, and I think resulted in significant improvements. When I talk about each of those areas, I think I'm proud to say that those areas have all resulted in better improvements than before. Another, I think, really, really good best-in-class kind of approach was what we did with the infrastructure stimulus funding. I cannot think of another municipality that was able to take advantage of the availability of senior government funding to the way that we did without affecting, again, the operating budget and the variety of things. I often think about the phone call that we got out of the blue from the federal government saying they had a bit of money left over. Could we use it? And I said, you bet you we could. And it was for the Lougheed Barnett, which is just finishing now. We got $6 million from the federal government because this council and this community had the wisdom and foresight to set up a funding mechanism that gave us the flexibility to be able to capitalize on. And we've got $6 million of funds from outside this community that we would have never got if we hadn't had that flexibility. And I think so much credit goes to Sheena and her finance group along in that regard. So then when we talk about some other issues, you'll hear more about this. The whole fire dispatch system, Tony will talk about in more detail when he's before you. The whole parks, recreation, and culture capital programs, Lori will talk about when she's before you. Community events, she'll also get into more detail. The whole economic development area, we're just starting. We're going to talk a little bit more. You're going to see a little bit more, quite a bit more actually, as we go through this coming year. But we've started a whole new system that is starting to show fruit. The whole ICT area, the whole QNet thing, that kind of stuff. Again, I think when we look back 10 years from now, when we look back at Coquitlam and the decisions we are making in the last couple of years, we'll be very proud of that. The whole strategic plan and business priorities, again, I think that is relatively rare in municipal circles to actually do the kind of extensive review in terms of planning out the year. And where I start with those kind of things, I try to project myself a year down the road and say, year down the road, what kind of successes do we want to be talking about? What kind of problems do we have in the community? How are we going to go about doing that? Where do we have to really focus and align our efforts with council's expectations? And so I try to project out a year and then look back and say, well, what do we have to do to get there? And that whole process that Sonia has worked through, I think, again, is something that we should all be very proud of. And the last one that I'll talk about right now is development process improvements. You've seen some reports on that, and I think our planning staff are making dramatic strides in that. We've still got a long way to go, and we'll still do a lot. But again, that was the second priority you gave me when I started here, is please pay attention to that development process, and while respecting council's fundamental responsibility to shape the community and give direction to the development community, let's try to make it a little bit more efficient. And we can point to all sorts of things there where I believe is more efficient. Just a couple other things before I go on to the financial issues is huge issues on Evergreen and Gateway. I'm not going to take too much time right now talking about that, but there are huge issues that have been taking a lot of our time, and I think that we can point to in terms of very public kind of benefits. You're going to be hearing next week about the arrangement that we've got with the federal government and TransLink in terms of the extension of United Boulevard. Huge win for this community that we'll be hearing about more. That stuff just doesn't happen on its own. It's done through a lot of time and effort, in this case in the engineering department, pushing that ahead. And so again, I think we should just take a minute to sort of thank the staff for that. So in terms of the other kind of things, I'm not going to talk in too much detail on the rest of it, but there's a bunch of other issues. Just in terms of the way we're communicating with staff, we call it the City Manager's Roadshow, but once a year we go to all the staff of this organization. I don't know of too many other municipal governments that do that. And it was something that was started by the previous administrations. I've continued it on, but it is, again, something that is something to be focused on and to be continued. The whole land management strategy, we, again, previous councils, previous administrations have given this community a huge asset that we have to be wise in terms of managing. We are focusing much more on that. We report out annually now on all our strategies, and we're going to start seeing a lot of fruit from that. And and the next thing is, gee, I didn't know there was this many. But when you start thinking about it, there is a lot. The whole regional issues. There's a lot of them. And I don't need to go into them in too much detail here, but the whole RGS thing that this council has taken strong position on, the solid waste plan, the liquid waste plan, I think that we are taking positions that are not just following along, that we are taking significant positions, and while they're not easy and while they're not comfortable at times, I think it's the right thing to do for the entire region and for the taxpayers to be highlighting some of the issues that this council has been highlighting. And so again, I'd just like to focus on that a little bit. And the last three things I won't really talk about, but we're emphasizing how we can serve the customer better. We are doing a lot of work in terms of trying to align staff with council's priorities. I think we're doing a decent job, but it's not always that easy because the council priorities do change legitimately, and the staff team sometimes is not quite as nimble as changing priorities as what we would like. But I think we're doing a much better job of trying to keep up with your priorities and serving you in that regard. And the last thing is just highlighting just a little bit. We are reaching out to other organizations, and it's not always easy, but there are benefits to be had by working with other public sector organizations. In this case, we just highlighted the school district. We are working very hard with them. The ultimate goals are not always aligned exactly, but if we work together, we can serve our public better than if we work at cross purposes or totally independently. So just thinking back, those are just some of the issues that have happened this last year, and I have to say, there's a lot going on. And I know that from my perspective, we're a team. The staff and the council have to work together to serve this community, and it's only by working together that we do that as effectively as we can. So I would just like to thank you for your help and the leadership that you give us in that regard. In terms of looking forward, it is a tough budget year. 2011 is, the last couple have been tough, and you've heard about a lot of them from Sheena. And there's a whole host of ongoing budget challenges. In addition to the stuff that we've talked about and that Sheena's briefed you, we've got some fixed inflation still that is higher than CPI, which a lot in the public can't easily grasp and don't feel is appropriate. But from our perspective, that's the starting point that we're stuck with. And so 2011 is again a tough year. We believe 2012 will be better, but there's a host of issues that we're pushing into 2012. So when we get to 2012, I do not believe it will be all that much better. But the fixed costs will be less. But because of a variety of decisions, there's a whole host of issues that are building now, starting to show up on the horizon. All those kind of things are subject to council direction, and I would just encourage you to think about the long term when you're making decisions in that regard. There's all sorts of stuff that are coming up. We have to, Kerry and his staff have to think about the upcoming election that will consume the latter half of the year, and you're all focused on that, I know, but at the staff behind the scenes, there's a significant workload issue there. There's all sorts of stuff that I'd like to do in terms of the cyclical reviews. It's not good enough from my perspective just to do a review, say good enough, done, move on. I'm planning during the year to do postmortems on some of the earlier reviews to see, well, how have they done? Should we tweak them a little bit more? And I'll be bringing you back some ongoing discussions in that regard. The ongoing Gateway and Evergreen lines are huge. There's some big decisions to be made, but there's also some big budget impacts. Right now, I just highlight the negotiations we're going on the Lincoln Station. It just doesn't happen. Right now, interests are diverging a little bit. I remain firmly committed that the third station for the Evergreen line is a huge benefit for this community, and to pull the parties together is effort very well spent, and we're doing that. The interests of Coquitlam Centre are different from the interests of the city, different interests from the interests of the province. It's not always easy to pull them together, but it's a significant initiative that I believe we should spend a lot of time on. The other significant dollar initiative that we will be faced with along with the Evergreen line is the whole what to do under the guideway. We call it the Great Streets program, and it's simply not acceptable in our view to put up the SkyTrade system and just say nothing is underneath it. We have an opportunity to shape this community, and we should be ready, and we're doing a lot of work in that regard. We'll be bringing back programs there. And then just the whole initiative on Every Green Line, just to make sure it continues. And I know the mayor is very focused on that. I'm very focused on that. We have waited long enough, and we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that line does not lose momentum and still gets delivered on the original schedule that the province promised us. And so then the other issues, and I talked previously about the metro issues, they are continuing to grow, and we will continue to represent our interests at that table. We're also got a lot of key capital programs in all the areas. The capital has been diminishing. The next 3 or 4 years are going to be significantly less than the last 2-3 years. And that's the way it appears at this time. We haven't had the detailed discussions yet, but we aren't going to be building the huge new facilities because we don't have the budget room for that. And there's all sorts of strategic decisions to be made there. And Council has previously given some direction on the key capital priorities, and we're going to be talking to you about that as we go through both the detailed presentations and the year. I just thought I would highlight that at this time. And so then we get on to the city manager's department. I have input into a wide variety of areas, and I have input into all the department budgets, and so this is a little bit misleading. But the hard costs from just the line units that report, that show up on the financial system under my direct responsibility is as shown in this slide. And we have focused in on what potential reductions we can, and what we've done for this area is we're not exempting anybody, but this area we're combining it with John's area and strategic initiatives, and we're talking about holistically across the department what we're doing. And John's going to go through that as part of his presentation to sort of like give you the what we have come up with. And we just to comment from an overview perspective, we listen very carefully to everything you say, and one of the things that you've highlighted on a number of occasions through the year is to think about the whole way we do consulting, and can we do it in a more effective manner, and we are talking about that, and John will go in a little bit more detail about what we're proposing to do there. So that is my overview. I don't know if you want to do questions at this point. It probably is appropriate. Otherwise, then by the time we get to the end, there won't be. But if there's anything that I've highlighted from an overview perspective that you'd like to talk about, probably now is the appropriate time, or else we can just turn it over to John for the next segment.
Well, that's good. I think your 5 minutes is up, actually. So
yeah, I saw that red red thing blinking, and they tried to keep advancing the slides, but I thought it was appropriate to go through some of those things in a little bit more detail.
Very good. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I only have a comment to make, Mr. Mayor, and I do want to thank you. To me, one of the most urgent things that we've been going through this year is this regional growth strategy. What started out to be sort of a ghost of a plan that always was overriding over the Metro Vancouver area is slowly becoming one of the octopuses of the takeover by Metro Vancouver for this super government. And I am not unwilling to give up control. I don't think any member of council is here to this super government. No matter how prudent this council is with our taxes and our decisions, it can all be wiped out with a stroke of the pen at Metro Vancouver. Just looking through our budget and seeing what the raises are, the differences from last year to this year are just astounding. So I do not think that we could have got anyone more qualified than you and your team, Mr. Dumont and all the rest of senior staff, to be acting for us down at Metro, and I want to thank you for your guidance, and thanks for being on our side.
That was a tough question. Any other questions? None? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Just go ahead and push the button then. There you go. Okay.
Thank you very much. On the second page of this report, this one, you have this city managed to avoid deficit creation by loss of revenue through vacancy management and budget reductions. Well, you know, I don't know. I think that last year was probably a disaster. This year we're going into a disaster. Number one, on this paper that were just handed out to us a few minutes ago, we're now cutting off $500,000 for buildings that are replacement, $200,000 for another building replacement, $300,000 for snow removal that we're taking out of the budget from last year to this year. So that means that in the last year or two, there hasn't been any money put forward to replacing our buildings whatsoever. So we're going downhill. Okay?
You're against that fund.
That's on top.
Go ahead.
That's on top, okay? Then we're talking about the most important thing to me is laying off a couple of policemen and a couple of firemen. I mean, that's really digging really deep as far as I'm concerned, and it's a no-no as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure it's a no-no with all our council members, but I can only speak for myself. But, you know, when the weatherman is saying that we're going to have a bad winter, we're taking off $300,000 for snow removal instead of adding some to the snow removal. We're cutting off, you know, years ago I set up that policy of having the buildings, we sold land, built buildings, that we also replace that land reserve with that money. But it looks like it's disappearing fast, very, very fast. So really, since last year, we're now digging ourselves a deeper hole than last year. And last year we could have cut a lot of other things off, but we didn't. We just controlled the budget, Mayor, like as if it was a one-year kind of hardship. Well, it's going to be more than this year and next year. It's going to be more than that. So, you know, we need to look at that. I'm really, really concerned. Also, I see you're cutting the consulting fees by $88,000, and you got $820,000 in the budget.
These are only suggested. Mr. Stephens.
I think we should highlight some of those issues. As I started, this is a tough budget year. We have had presentations on that. Our starting inflation rate is in the high 4%. I think it's 4.9%. You've had those kind of presentations. We've had discussions as a senior management team, and we've had discussions with this council. Is it acceptable simply to accept that and build on that every year? And our feeling is that as a government organization, we should not be simply saying the status quo is a status quo and never looking at it. So what we're doing, and we challenged all the departments in accordance with council's direction to come up with $1 million of permanent budget reductions in the various areas. Those are only suggestions, and council has to give us direction on that. So we went through it department by department. When I started, the area and the council agenda was the $5,000 of the tax reductions. That's council's proportionate share. Council doesn't have to accept that or not. In the same way, each department has come up with ideas. There's simply that. They're ideas for us to debate and discuss. If you don't like those ideas, you do not have to approve them. And you then have two choices. You can simply say, well, we understand, we don't want to reduce that area or this area, and we exempt that area. We don't take those reductions, and then that portion of $1 million is not accepted. Or if you don't like the suggestion and you think that that particular department can come up with a better idea, or if you have a better idea, you can put it on the table, and we'll investigate it further, and we'll have those discussions. Those discussions will all happen on the 22nd. Yeah. When I think about past council decisions, I think that this community should be very proud of the past council decisions. We are in an enviable situation in terms of the status of our reserves and those kind of things. Some of the issues that you highlighted get into the policies with respect to this council has previously approved that need to be ratified and funded each year, of putting money into building reserves and those kind of things. And all we're doing is highlighting that if you want reductions and if you want to bring the tax rate down further, that we're highlighting that some of those issues can be discussed, and we feel comfortable that if you want to reduce those somewhat. If you don't want to reduce those, if you want to keep more money in the reserves, that's okay, and that's actually very prudent financially. But we are recognizing that this is a tough budget year, and we should be looking under every stone we can to come up with ideas for you to consider. All those issues will be finished and discussed in more detail on the 22nd. I don't think it's totally fair to say that this council has not been approving new buildings and those kind of things. You just have to look at the two projects that I talked about. The Poirier Ice replaced an entire facility, and we did that by really upgrading the whole thing, both expanding it but also replacing what was there. The fire project also is expanding and replacing something that's there. So we have been spending a fair amount of money on buildings this last little while, and we're going to be having some difficult decisions looking forward in terms of other buildings to do and other priorities. Those would be the comments that I would make at this time.
Well, I'm looking forward to maybe on November 22nd we can discuss a lot of things, because I've got a lot of questions here, and looking forward to discussing an 8% budget. Thank you. If you approve everything,
thank you.
No.
It's true. If we rejected all of the proposed reductions and approved all of the proposed expenditures, it would be a larger budget. But I don't think Council's going to go that way. Councillor Lynch.
Well, I'm just going to add a couple comments on that. I know we're going to be discussing this more next week, but when I look down this list of budget reductions, proposed reductions, seriously, when I see something like we're proposing perhaps cutting police officer, firefighters, you know we're not going to do that. So, I mean, it's just on paper. I don't think there's any appetite around this council at all that we're even going to look at that. So, to me, I don't even understand why that's brought forward. That's not a real reduction. I don't see other areas that could be proposed. And I said this last year. No, I said this last year when they proposed 2 police officers being reduced. We're not going to be considering that. They're not coming forward with staff or vehicles or anything else. So, to me, that's kind of a non-issue when you see this kind of stuff. And as far as the reduction in snow and ice budget, I mean, that's possible. We are supposed to be having a difficult year, but it wasn't that long ago, perhaps a year or two, that out of the blue, so at least we got it on paper in front of us now, out of the blue, we had $1 million being put into the snow budget. And we weren't even consulted that prior to going into the budget deliberations, which we're doing now. So at least we have it on paper.
The only comment I would make is that I think all areas should think and come up with ideas, and all of us could come up with a whole variety of areas in each of the departments to talk about, and you're going to have the opportunity, both with the RCMP and the fire, to talk about why they highlighted the issues that they could. We had some internal discussions on, are there other areas? There's all a host in both those areas. As you said, you highlighted vehicles. There's other aspects that we can highlight and get into. There's other aspects of those services, whether or not we have dedicated teams or a variety of other kind of issues we can get into. But we challenged each GM to come up with what they would put on the table and want the focus of the discussion, and that's what they put up. And you can have further discussions with both Tony and Claude when they make their detailed presentations. And can they come up with other issues? I think they can.
But Mr. Stebbins, really, we're talking here about, on one hand, a possible budget reduction of 2 members, and then you flip down to the next page, and you see that what they're really saying is they need 5 more firefighters, an assistant fire chief, and other stuff. So it's not a valid reduction.
There are decisions to be made. On the one hand, it seems...
Well, but that's the same as you proposing reducing your budget by eliminating the deputy city manager. We're not going to be doing that either, so that would be another way of putting it.
We're going to let him respond, but I suspect that when staff went to each department and asked them for what would happen if their budgets were reduced, and they got a list of them, I don't know that anyone was being particularly disingenuous, but at the same time, we know that we need more police, we need more firefighters, so I understand that balance, and this is questions that I think Council has to wrestle with over the coming weeks.
And there are decisions. The Council doesn't absolutely have to expand those areas. They can keep them the same, they can reduce them, or they can expand them. We all may think what Council is going to do, and I happen to agree with you that at the end of the day, I do not, think that some of those things are going to come to fruition. But if Council wanted them to come to fruition, they could. And this is all about direction, and the direction that you're going to give us. And it's not about the manager's office controlling each GM. We did not do that. We simply offered up the challenge. If the council was to say that your budget had to be reduced, how would you accomplish that? And that's what they're saying. At the same time, they're not recommending them. Those are not recommendations. They're actually also saying, and we'd like more. And it's up to you to say whether
and I
or not they should
totally
get
understand
more.
that, but in the past what we've said, when there's recommendations coming forward to council, there's been like 3 alternatives. One that's totally forget it, one that's unpalatable, and the one that may work through. So I mean, I'm just saying they're not valid options when they're being presented.
And I would ask that both Tony and to Claude to address that when they're before you.
Well, and they addressed that last year when the same thing came forward, so I know what the answer is going to be to that too.
Very good. Thank you very much.
John.
Mr. Dumont.
Thank you very much. I will try to move quickly here. We're just going to get into a little more detail in terms of the nuts and bolts with this presentation. As the chart says, there's primarily 6 areas that I deal with directly: fire protection, human resources, economic development, RCMP liaison, Coquitlam emergency program, and corporate planning. I do get involved with initiatives in a variety of other areas, but those are the primary ones. Sorry about that. For the purposes of my presentation today, I'm focusing on human resources, corporate planning, emergency planning, and economic development. As in past years, fire and police will be reported separately. Those are both very significant areas of the city and very significant budgets and deserve their own time and presentation. With respect to the other 4 areas, I would characterize the services as primarily foundation services. They're internal services that assist the provision of service. For example, human resources provides the hiring and promotions and all those sorts of things that go on in order to facilitate departments carrying out their services to the public. Similarly, the executive assistants to council, assist council in delivering their service and helping council to respond to residents and the needs of the citizens. With respect to human resources, it's the largest area out of the 4, approximately a $2.2 million budget and 16.6 FTEs. Human resources deals with all the traditional human resources functions: hiring and promotions, benefits administration, payroll, occupational health and safety, collective bargaining, grievance administration, attendance management, and wellness as well. They also do payroll. And that, of course, is Ron Price's area, and he's a member of our executive team. The next area is corporate planning, and that is Sonia Santarosa, also a member of our executive team. And she coordinates our strategic and business planning processes, including performance measures and trimester reporting. She's also involved in the provision of customer service initiatives and a variety of other special projects and committee support. Coquitlam emergency program, headed up by Karen Bassey. We have an emergency program that's designed to address any man-made or natural disasters that may occur in Coquitlam. And the duties include ensuring the effective use of our Emergency Operations Center, the organization and preparedness of staff, of volunteers, and public and corporate education relative to preparedness. And finally, economic development. That is Wayne Begg's area, and that area is involved with the preparation of strategies and implementation of initiatives to promote economic development, including business attraction and retention, tourism, and marketing of Coquitlam. So in terms of 2010 highlights and accomplishments, I'll just run through quickly because there's a rather long list. 2010 business plan priority development and tracking, including the reporting out on the priorities. Climate action and energy management tracking, which has now been moved to the new Environmental Services Division. Strategic plan update was completed and approved by Council. Annual sustainability report was completed. We've also been providing support to the cyclical reviews and outdated rules committee. Business plan workshops were coordinated for Council, including the tracking and implementation of those initiatives that were put forward by Council. Establishment of an economic development and investment advisory panel that will be having its first meeting coming up shortly. Developed an economic development display and package. Secured the LPGA Canadian Open for 2012, coordinated Earth Hour 2010, and continued committee support to the Mayardville Task Force and Riverview Committee. Coordinated the annual Ipsos Reid survey, developed the council and committee action tracking lists, and created a community events calendar, updated the disaster response plan and emergency program bylaw, developed a Mundy Park interface fire evacuation plan, completed an EOC radio communications audit. Electronic paper slips, pay slips are now being done. 116 employees were put through a serving the diverse customer training. We introduced a toxic process gas program dealing with chlorine, ammonia, and ozone, as well as a new and young worker safety orientation program. And in addition to that, from my perspective, I also assisted in providing oversight for legal services, corporate communications, and ICT. In terms of 2011 challenges and priorities, development of the 2011 business plan priorities and trimester reporting, complete the radio communications upgrades at the primary and secondary EOC, develop a community emergency recovery plan, develop emergency operations center guidelines, publicizing investor opportunity related to Evergreen and Gateway, and developing business community connections. In Ron's area, resolutions of labor relations matters that arise. We do have a couple issues that are out there right now that could potentially go to arbitration, although I have to say that we have a very good labor relations record here, and we get very few grievances for an organization our size, and HR should be commended for that. Conflict resolution training for our frontline staff is what we're going to focus on from a customer service perspective. And the other one I would highlight is completion of fire collective bargaining in 2011. So quickly summarizing the overall budget, there's, as previously noted, 24.4 FTEs, approximately $3.5 million budget, $200,000 of revenue, and 80% of the budget is labor. How that breaks down is in terms of Deputy City Manager's Office, Corporate Planning and Council Administration, that's approximately $757,000. HR is $2.2 million. Coquitlam Emergency Program, $315,000. And Economic Development, $220,000. As noted, there's about $200,000 of revenue that Human Resources revenue is primarily union recoverable leave, and Coquitlam Emergency Program, that's provincial grant funding that we get through the Joint Emergency Preparedness Program. In terms of budget reductions, as the City Manager alluded to, all departments were tasked with doing budget reductions. One of the things that we decided to focus on as an E-team was cutting our consulting budget across the organization. About a quarter of that money that's up there is coming from City Manager, Deputy City Manager area, but basically the cut in consulting goes right across the organization. I believe all departments have have a little piece of that with the exception of RCMP. And I guess the other thing I would note is I think oftentimes we traditionally think of consultants being associated with engineering and planning, but we use a variety of consultants for expert advice across the organization, and it's basically an issue of it doesn't make sense for us as a city to have a particular expert on something. We just wouldn't have the work for them to keep them in an ongoing way, so we do have to draw on services like auditors or specialty legal advice and or things like hardware and software solutions for our computer systems, those types of things. In terms of new requests, there's a $20,000 related to the Economic Development and Investment Advisory Panel. And in terms of a service maintenance request in the HR area, HR and labor relations legal advice, this is an issue that there's been more demand for those types of services over time, and our funding has never kept pace with the demand for those services, and so this is to make our budget match with what our actual experience is each year in that area. And a service enhancement request from Human Resources as well for an additional Human Resources assistant, and that's to address the volume of administrative work in the area. I would just note that all of these budget requests will be coming forward to council at a later date for council's consideration and debate of whether they want to fund these initiatives or not. I believe that's November 22nd, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a general comment, okay, to begin with, and then a couple of specifics. What we've heard in the last 45 minutes is pretty much contained in the binder that I spent a lot of time reading on the weekend. The material that we've been handed this morning, if it were necessary, I could have read it on the weekend and we could have come in here ready to discuss the material rather than to sit here and have it read to me. I'd like staff to make the assumption that council reads the material they're presented with and comes prepared to discuss it. It would be a much better use of our time, I would suggest. I have a couple of specifics to suggest, things that I would like to see on our list of things to make decisions about. Yes, we're faced with a challenging year. It seems that we're always faced with a challenging year, and I think it's council's place to try and set a leadership role. I believe there are scheduled increases to council stipends for the coming year. I think a decision as to whether or not council will take those should be one of the first items of decision for us. Second item relating to council that I'd like to see on our list of things to consider. I took a look at the 2009 Metro Vancouver financial reports. About $36,000 of Metro Vancouver money was spent paying members of this council to attend meetings at Metro. I know they take a lot of time. Members of council, though, take on a variety of roles as members of council. Councillor Robinson attends library board meetings. I attend other committee meetings. We all have things to do that aren't directly right here in City Hall, but I believe that a lot of care has been taken in setting compensation rates for council. I think we've done the best job we can of establishing what's fair for the work that's done, what's affordable by the city for the work that's done. If somebody is entitled to something from Metro Vancouver for contributing to their efforts, I think that's a cost recovery for the city. I think that's something that we ought to consider. I have, if I can find the page, a couple of specific questions about HR. We have 16.5 FTE positions, a reasonably sizable budget, a whole lot of work, an important work done in the HR department. a lot of work is done as well by the Greater Vancouver Labour Relations Bureau, or whatever it's called these particular days. I'd like to know how much that costs us. The FTE equivalent of the services that are provided by that bureau. The budget impact, if we were to change, I know it takes a couple or more years' notice, but if we don't think about it, it'll never happen. So I'd like to know the budget impact of bringing those responsibilities in-house, and at the same time, I'd like to know the service impact of bringing those in-house. Thanks.
If I may, I think I can speak to that one. We did do a report to Council on that specific issue, including comparing, what we charge versus, or what Metro charges versus what it would cost to do our services, the services ourselves, and we can provide that. We can provide that report to you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've got quite a number of items, but I'll just go on 2 items. Number 1, you have secured LPGA or LPGA Canadian Open 2012 in Vancouver Golf Course. Well, I'd suggest to you that Coquitlam had nothing to do with that, nothing whatsoever. Matter of fact, what happens there is very simple. When I was the mayor, we had 2 of the LPGA and the men's tournament. They don't come to you whatsoever. They membership votes, yes or no. Then they might approach you on traffic and a few other things, and that comes much later. So, for us to say that we secured it, that's really reaching. Really deep. But secondly, also a mayor on the RCMP liaison. I mean, this is the first time I've sat in council where a department head is in charge of the RCMP. Not so. Years ago, the mayor used to be in charge of the RCMP. And I'm going back in the early 70s. Okay? Not in my year, but previous mayor's years. The fact is that the mayor was in charge. He had a luncheon meeting with the chief of police once a month, and he told him what the problems he had in the city, and told him, look, you fix it. You're the police chief, you fix it. Now it seems like this police force is so far drawn away from the council that they're not even listening to the mayor and council anymore. I'm sure that the mayor's had some problems a year ago or 2 years ago, to what I understand, and this is where the problems arise, because the council is not in charge of the police department anymore. It's a department head that's in charge. So that's one thing that we should be looking, and I know that we'll be discussing all this on the 22nd. We should be looking about changing that. But those are 2 items. I got others, but those 2 items really, really bug me that somehow we in Coquitlam got this LPGA. Impossible. If it was on Westwood Plateau, I might say yes. But this is in Coquitlam, where it's a private course on the membership votes. And if the membership didn't agree, didn't matter what Coquitlam wanted, it would never happen. Thank you.
Mr. Dumont.
Maybe I should just speak to that one briefly. Certainly the membership would have to support the event for the event to go ahead, but we were approached by the LPGA initially in order to make sure that the city also supported the event, because without our support as well for traffic control and things like that, the event can't take place as well. So they did come to us directly.
Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I think where Councillor Sikora was going, because there's people from the golf club that are chatting, is that they came to us. We didn't source it out. They came to us, is what he's trying to say. Mine goes on to my favorite topic, and you're going to love this one. The operating costs with respect to committees that you guys put in for $20,000. If I had one clerk making $30 an hour and they worked for 40 hours on one committee, that's only $1,200 a month. And I just don't see where we're getting this $20,000. It's just extraordinary. And if we need people to work in the evenings on committees, then we need to change our hiring practices. And that's something that I want to put on the agenda for this year. If we need to be having committee clerks that have to service the committees in the evenings, then perhaps their work schedule should be changed so that they work so many evenings a split shift, sort of so many days and so many evenings, and because we just can't afford to be doing this. This is just $20,000 is just way out of whack. So I have difficulty with that. You know that, so it's no surprise. But that's my comment. Other than that, thank you for all you do.
Okay, thank you very much. And just very briefly on that, in respect to Jay's area of the 20,000, I believe only about a quarter of that was what he thought would be clerking fees. The other was an allowance for expenses that may arise through that committee, whether it's consulting work where they want us to follow up and investigate a particular issue. But that will be an item that I'm sure we'll get debate from council on November 22nd, and you can give us direction in that regard.
Mr. Gilbert.
Just supporting what Sean said, it is only a minor part of that does go to clerking expenses. It is mostly on the business side of the committee. But just to answer the question on hours, our committee clerks do work flexible hours. We pay very little overtime, and it's with their great cooperation that they work very flexible days, and so very little of that goes into extra overtime. And it is something that we have been, Carrie's done a tremendous job in managing, but we'd be happy to provide some more information on that, and as you say, have a fuller discussion at a future time.
I'm not criticizing the staff. They're all wonderful, and I love them to bits. I'm criticizing the system whereby we do this.
I'll just add that I think we've heard from every member of council that the 20,000 seems arbitrary. It seemed as though it's intended to, or that it will have the consequence of discouraging establishment of committees. I think council needs to decide on its committees as to whether or not they're good public policy, not whether or not we're being charged too much when we establish them for our budget. So I think what we're going to have is a debate about how we get the committee cost, which, as I said, seems arbitrary, is get that committee cost down to the actual cost of the clerk's department operating the committee. And if the committee then subsequently requires some work to be done, then council can approve that work based on the decision of the recommendation of the committee and the allocation of costs there too.
Yeah, good idea.
Okay, so that's where we're at on that. I think, Councillor Lynch.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll start just with a comment on the presentations. I do appreciate the high-level overview from the city manager and the deputy city manager, although I'd like it to be high and quick, more to refresh instead of telling us absolutely what we've read already. So I'd also like to comment on the Labour Relations Bureau and our function here as a city. I remember the report, and right now, and as a lot of councillors, we all sit in different committees. I sit on Labour Relations Bureau. We're doing a significant amount of naval gazing right now. I can tell you that for the city, what we have right now with the amount of a high-level expertise that we're getting from Metro Vancouver, we're better off right now financially to do it the way we're doing. We could provide the same amount of services in-house. It would be significantly more expensive. So right now we're doing the best, although that could change depending on what happens at the Labour Relations Bureau. My next question actually does have to do with labour relations, and specifically the $50,000 that was an increase, and Mr. Dumont, you kind of, I felt, didn't give it its due in as much when you were talking about it. We're talking about a request of $50,000, which is actually double what it's in the budget, according to the report on page 8. And it talks about grievances and harassment investigations have substantially increased over the past few years. It's been like 6 years that we've had $100,000 or more in excess. And I have brought, and I know we can't get into a lot of discussions here because it's a public meeting, I have brought forward issues, and I think that this, to me, is a red flag. I brought this up with the previous city manager. I brought it up with the current city manager, and some of the issues have been addressed and some haven't. And I think that when we're talking about, basically this is doubling the budget on a permanent basis, to me, that again, that's a red flag. I think we need to be addressing this. And I think we have a problem, and I don't think it's being addressed properly. So I just want to flag that.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I'm actually quite pleased to hear some of the discussion here and some of the questions, because I think there's lots more for us to talk about than just what staff have sort of offered up. So I'm just going to jump in and add a couple of my thoughts as we go through these different departments. Right now, the position for General Manager of Corporate Services is vacant, and I think that needs to be discussed. we need to talk about what's going to happen with that position and if it ought to be filled. So I'm just going to put this on the table for discussion on November 22nd. I'm also just thinking about policy decisions that are just around tightening up on some of our expenditures in general that aren't on the table, like our per diem. Right now I know that there's coming from nonprofit, it's a realistic per diem, not what we had in nonprofit, that's for sure. But in terms of accountability around that, and I've come across some situations where I think we can tighten up around that. And out-of-province travel, in terms of, certainly the private sector is tightening up wherever it can, and I think that that's something that we ought to be looking at as a city, as an organization, to look at some of these policies or places where we didn't, for example, have policies, and we would just act on our own best conscience, and maybe we need to start looking at some of those things and tightening up wherever we can. I think that's all I'm going to say for now. I have actually, I do have one question. Hosting sports groups. I guess we can talk about that. Have we ever hosted a sports group? Have we ever used that budget that's in the council budget?
It's my understanding that we have. We haven't in the 2.5 years that I've been here, but I have been told that yes, we have hosted.
I think we need to offer that one up. If we haven't used it in 2.5 years, I don't know why we keep putting it in there. So I'd like to offer that up from include the $5,000 fax budget as well as this $10,000 sort of sport hosting budget. I don't know why it's there. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Dumont.
My apologies, but you get me twice. So I will try to move quickly again. So I'll be doing the corporate services presentation for this year as well. And it's similar format as the previous one. Let me just go back one, Jay. In terms of corporate services, there's 5 divisions: city clerks, financial services, corporate communications, information and communications technology, and legal and bylaws. 96 FTEs, $12.4 million budget. Again, these are basically the foundation type services. They're integral to the city's operation. For example, accounts receivable and payable, and the things that Sheena does in order to make the city run, as well as Jay's area in terms of facilitating council's decisions so staff can then carry out the work on behalf of mayor and council. Corporate Services Administration, and this is the issue that Councillor Robinson just alluded to. The GM of Corporate Services position is presently vacant, and we've been filling that hole through the city manager and I picking up some additional duties. City manager has been providing oversight to finance and clerks, and I've been providing oversight to ICT, legal, and communications. And I'd like to maybe just take a minute to acknowledge the division managers in these areas, because we have a complement of strong managers within the corporate services department, and that's really helped in terms of making this seamless, in terms of not having that position in place for quite a period of time now. And while it's extra work for Peter and I, it's also extra work for the managers as well when you take a position out like that. And that is an item that we do need to discuss with council in due course. With respect to the city clerk's office, it's 8.7 FTE positions. The budget for this year, $1.3 million and $300,000 of revenue. That's a little higher than normal because the funding for the election is in the budget for next year. Financial services, Sheena's area provides all the traditional financial services. I don't think I need to get into that. expenses of $2.8 million, the revenue of $109 million because of the tax draw. ICT, we have 21.2 FTEs and approximately a $4 million budget, and that's to provide all of our technology solutions, computers, phone systems, etc. And then we have legal, bylaw enforcement, business licensing, and animal services, 26.7 FTEs, $2.8 million expenditures. This is also an area that does have significant revenue, $2.1 million, and there is a write-up in the budget binder about how we can provide additional bylaw enforcement at what we think is no cost. A number of councillors raised that issue through the course of this year. And corporate communications, 8.1 FTEs and approximately $1 million budget, providing all of our communication services. So in terms of activity highlights, they were actually noted in categories of our strategic goals from our strategic plan, but under strengthening neighborhoods, public safety inspection team, graffiti eradication and bylaw enforcement, expanding local jobs and local prosperity, support of business improvement associations, and supporting economic development generally, as well as QNet BC. Enhancing sustainability of city services, that's computer, hardware, software upgrades, and financial policies such as tangible capital assets, capital replacement reserves, etc. And achieve excellence in city government, internet broadcasts of council meetings. We've also put out council report format and guidelines, so hopefully we're getting better and more consistent information to council. And the by-election was also a highlight for 2010. Just quickly looking at accomplishments from 2010, as alluded to earlier, Sheena was a recipient of 3 financial reporting awards. Again, congratulations to Sheena for that. We're also a recipient of a couple of ICT awards this year. One was an honorable mention at UBCM related to best practices in QNet. And the second one was a gold medal laureate for our data storage systems virtualization. Another highlight in the IT area is QNet has signed up its first competitive telecom service provider. That's Uniserve QConnect, and that represents a milestone in terms of QNet. And ICT also did major upgrades of our Oracle and Maximo maintenance management system. In the communications area, we implemented some new media relations guidelines, introduced a communications project management and tracking system, and we're just completing the first phase of our city website redevelopment. And in Clerk's area, implemented webcasting service, successfully administered the by-election, and developed the new council report template and style guide. Finally, legal and bylaws, the cat or the animal shelter expansion, the new cat room, reorganization of bylaws and property use to more efficiently deploy the staff, and the implementation of land title e-filing. Looking forward to challenges for 2011, and it's I guess a challenge every year is budget management, managing our high-profile A priority projects, the facility capital demands we have in communications, launch of the final phase of branding, completion of a new web product, From ICT's perspective, QNet revenue generation, providing free and secure wireless access to our facilities, enhancing our ICT applications such as Maximo and GIS. And clerks, primary challenge will be 2011 general election, SEDMAS upgrade, meeting the increasing demands and needs of the organization in terms of the committees, and from legal's perspective, an update of our animal welfare bylaw, streamlining our claims management process, and managing increasing Northeast development. So just quickly summarizing, it's approximately a $12 million budget, $111 million of revenue, and labor comprises about 70%. And that breaks down to roughly $4 million for ICT, $2.8 million for legal and bylaws, $2.8 million for finance, $1.3 million for clerks, and $1 million for corporate communications, and $230,000 for administration. On the revenue side, again, the big pieces are the tax draw, approximately $109 million. Well, it's more than just tax draw, but the financial services at $109 million. Roughly $2 million related to bylaws and business licensing. And city clerks, I believe that's a draw from reserves to fund the election primarily, and then a small amount in IT and corporate communications. In terms of reductions the departments identified for 2011, the $23,000 reduction in ICT software and hardware, $20,000 we believe we can achieve through election efficiencies, reducing finance vacation relief, corporate communications, and reduce finance interest expense, and reduce budget for legal opinions. There are a couple revenue increases that are being proposed for council this year. One is tax and mortgage information fee increase, and the second is animal shelter increases, and that's related to both boarding and adoption of pets. And basically with both of those, we're just looking for increases that make us reflective of what other municipalities charge for these services. We're a little under in those areas. There's a couple of net zero requests. The one I highlighted earlier in terms of additional bylaw enforcement hours that we think we can provide at no charge, as well as a animal shelter information clerk where auxiliary hours would be converted to a regular part-time position at no cost. In terms of service enhancement requests, there's a request for a couple additional vehicles for inspectors, as well as 4 laptops for bylaw officers, and those laptops are the ruggedized kind, and that's why they show up as being fairly expensive. Finally, the last corporate services slide just shows the 5-year capital plan for ICT. We are continually having to renew our equipment, and over 5 years there's $6.8 million in the capital expenditure program. I believe for this year it's only a small portion of that, around $1 million or something like that. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you very much. Okay, here's 3 places that I really have concerns with. When you look at city clerks, you got 8.7 employees. That's an awful lot for this city. But also corporate communication, 8.7. When Burnaby's got 1 for the size of Burnaby, and Metro has 50 that everybody's laughing at. We got 8.7. Now, sure to God, we don't need 8.7 employees to corporate communication. I mean, I'm sure that one would do it, but that's all right. That's my comments. So it'll be good discussion on the 22nd. Secondly, you brought up here QNAT. Where's the financial statement for QNAT? Where are we at? What are we generating for the money that we spent? It's been now about 3 or 4 years. What new service? How many customers have we got?
Do you have an answer on either one of those questions?
If you can answer, or otherwise you can bring it back to us another day.
We will be reporting out on QNet shortly, so I think we can have a fuller discussion there. In terms of the milestone I alluded to, by the end of 2010, we wanted to have a service provider in place that would be signing up buildings and offering QNet's internet service to buildings, and the goal was to have that provider in place and for them to have 8 buildings signed up by the end of 2010, and I believe we're on target for that. We do have 8 signed up already. But certainly the focus for next year will be on revenue generation. Now the pieces are in place.
I'm looking forward to see it.
With respect to the staffing levels, from my experience, I don't believe that the clerk's office is overstaffed. They are very busy. With respect to communications, we are a bit different than other cities in that we provide a print shop here. So we provide a wide array of services that in other cities would be contracted out, and I believe we do that quite cost effectively.
So these corporate communications, are they also running the print shop, or there's other employees running the print shop?
No, the print shop employees are included in that number.
It's in the report. Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Basically, into the new requests where you're asking for 2 additional vehicles for inspectors, and that would be bylaw inspectors. Are we talking about the home inspections, or are we talking the animal?
I believe we're talking about bylaw inspectors.
Yeah, okay. 4 laptop computers, $7,500 each. I mean, crazy glue comes cheap. You really don't need to, I mean, you know, a laptop these days you can get for a good one for, I would say, a couple of $1,000s. Why do we need $7,500 each? Don't tell me it's to connect them to the cars, because that makes no sense whatsoever.
These particular laptops are, I believe, the same type of unit that go on police vehicles. They're called ruggedized laptops, because basically they're meant to be carried around and plugged in the vehicle and then plugged in the office, and the units are a lot more expensive than the traditional laptop.
Well, I think we should take a rethink of stuff like that. I mean, everybody has laptops we carry around, and nobody's sloppier than realtors, and we drop them all the time, and we pick them up, and they still work. So I have a little difficulty with that. And while we're on this, one of the things I wanted to know was we have a couple of ATVs somewhere in this city. We have 3 or 4, I would think, in parks or leisure. And I want to know why we don't have those, that they can move between departments so that our bylaw guys can go in on those into the big park areas for bylaw enforcement, for off-leash dogs, etc., that we get so much grief about, and people doing things in parks that they're not supposed to be doing. So it just twigged my memory, so if you can mark that down to check it out, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I have some similar questions. What's our computer replacement policy? Do we have a time frame for how often we replace our computers?
If you could step, sorry.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That was just a question I had. I also have some...
I will repeat the answer because we're televised today, so that was approximately every 5 years from Mr. Adams in charge of
Thank
ICT.
you. Thank you very much. I think you're referring to tough books, and my husband just bought one for $4,500, and the hardware to mount them into your car is $500. So my math makes it a little, it's expensive, but it's not quite $7,500. I just count 5,000. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about what the other costs are. The same thing with vehicles. I mean, I come from the nonprofit sector, and when you needed a vehicle, you didn't buy new, because as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. So I want to know if we've considered about buying a used vehicle. Why do they have to be new? I think even if it's just 1 year old, it's certainly going to be cheaper. I just think that when it's a really tough year and we're scrimping and pushing, I think we ought to take a look at our general practices and start looking at little ways that we can start saving money. I think that needs to be our practice, not to always get the best and the right off the lot. So I'd like to sort of see us think a little bit outside the box and look for better deals around these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reamer.
Thank you. My question was along the same lines with respect to the additional vehicles. I agree with what Councillor Robinson has said. I also think that we need to, when she says looking outside the box, that there's lots of great places out there that we may not have thought of in previous years to get your vehicle at a very reasonable cost. Where are we getting our vehicles from?
I'll have to defer that one to Bill.
Sure. Thanks. Through your worship, the city's fleet section manages the acquisitions. Their job is to take the specification of the user department and make sure that we come up with options that work. And I know that in the past that we have acquired some equipment on a used basis because it is a good deal. That is a regular practice. So our responsibility is to go out and meet the specification at the best price.
Thank you. And the next question I have is with respect to election process efficiencies of 20,000. Can you describe for me what those election process efficiencies are?
I can give it a start, and then I could actually ask Carrie to speak to further details, because really a lot of these efficiencies were the great work that her and Lauren did. What this is in the last budget, council approved a small tax increase to cover the ongoing cost of elections, because we know that they're coming, and we've also had a significant number of by-elections, which used to create an unexpected expense. In moving to certain things like electronic registration of voters, the way that we process some of those elections, as we develop more expertise with those, Carrie and Lauren were able to find cost reductions and savings through either the purchase of computers rather than the leasing of them, which had unexpected expenses. We bought some equipment like scanners, barcode scanners, that can be reused from election to election, and some ongoing refinements. So what that represents is a reduction from the money that was allocated on the annual basis, and that would be continuing go-forward savings. We had hoped to have additional savings to have a 4-year term, but that was not supported by UBCM, and we're still awaiting the legislation that will come out of the Elections Task Force. But that's sort of a broad thing. I don't know if Carrie had something more specific to add.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no one else. Thank you very much, Mr. Doom.
Thank you very much.
Your Worship, members of Council, Maurice Gravel, I'll now present the Strategic Initiatives Department budget. So in our department, we have 6 man-years. Strategic Initiatives Management, that's myself as one man-year. Land and Properties, we have a manager, Perry, and 1 staff person. And Facilities Planning and Construction, we have Brent Cormack and 2 staff persons assisting him. In terms of project management, has been alluded to before, we have 2 very large projects, the Port Mann Highway 1, including the King Edward Overpass project and the Evergreen Line project, coordination with the province. And what I'd like for Council to note here is basically I have no staff, it's myself, but I rely on staff in the Engineering and Public Works Department as well as the Planning Department to make these projects work and to provide the necessary technical support so to keep these projects moving. In terms of the Evergreen, we also have a consultant that's assisting us part-time, and that cost, as shown on the slide, is revenues of $61,000. That's funds coming from the province that they have provided us to pay for the consulting time on the Evergreen Line project. In terms of lands and properties, we look after acquisition and disposal of property, negotiation of leases, etc. Management support for our rental houses that are on city lands, and we provide a lot of consultative advice to many other departments in terms of land matters. The revenues of $46,700 is basically coming from the land sale reserve fund because we do a lot of work to create revenue, and basically that's a portion of land sale reserve funds that pays for some of those wages. Facilities and planning is responsible for short and long range planning and large capital projects. We also look after the security for all city facilities, fire protection and fire planning, facility risk management, and operational and maintenance support for the house rental properties that we currently own. The revenues of $186,600 is basically the revenue we get from the rental houses that we currently are managing. 2010 highlights, the Evergreen Line. We've maintained a very good working relationship with the senior staff at the provincial level that are working on the moving forward with the Evergreen Line planning. We have spent considerable time and effort trying to earn the city center station in the town center. We continue to work on that initiative. And we've worked with council to continue to request through council resolutions having the province move forward as quickly as possible with the construction of the Evergreen Line itself. In terms of the Port Mann Highway, we've provided regular updates to council and to the community. We've hosted, in conjunction with the province, a citywide open house to review the project, primarily as it relates to the aspects of the project that affect Coquitlam, the Cape Horn interchange, more specifically. And also, this past year, we got a council approval for the fit and finish and the enhancements to the King Edward overpass that the province is building. And finally, just want to highlight with council, considerable amount of time being undertaken by engineering staff and myself on the ongoing project management services for the project to make sure that the province and Kiewit are kept moving and we're not holding up construction in any way. Facilities planning, we've completed the Poirier Sports and Leisure Complex project. We just had the grand opening on October 30th, and the project, as stated, was completed ahead of schedule and will be completed under budget. The Town Centre Fire Hall administration building extension will be completed by the end of this year, and we completed the Plasma Larville concept design and presented that to council in July. Lands and property, we received approval for the 2010 land management strategies involving both our residential and commercial properties. We've sold 6 of the 20 residential properties today, and we continue to market those residential properties. We've sold a portion of 3002 Glen Drive, and that should complete by the end of the year. We're in the process of rezoning 1112 Westwood Street and 3030 Gordon Avenue. And we've completed a building and property-specific control registry, which basically tracks all our buildings and properties so that we have kind of a one-stop area where we can track everything and keep a central registry for all our properties. We've provided ongoing support to the Port Mann and Highway and Evergreen Line projects, and we're actively evaluating strategies to maximize the benefits to be received by Evergreen Line. And we believe that as soon as the construction starts, there will be a lot of things happening in terms of new proposals and new initiatives in construction, and we have a lot of land in the town center. We want to make sure that we capture that to the best possible extent when the Evergreen construction starts. And we provide technical assistance to all the city departments on a number of matters to make sure that city lands have an interest in some of those initiatives that are happening in other departments. Some of the challenges will be to keep King Edward open to traffic while construction of a new bridge is ongoing, and as they start to build the columns and bring in beams, it'll be a challenge to keep the temporary traffic detours working, and as well as the 12-week total closure that will be coming up in 2011. And finally, working with the business community to facilitate their needs and to try and keep traffic moving through that corridor during the construction process over the next couple of years. finalization of the Evergreen Line design and administrative details with the province to ensure that when they're ready to start construction that we're moving ahead with them and they have the necessary approvals they need to move ahead in a timely manner. We want to update and implement the city lands management priorities for 2011 and continue to actively evaluate the strategies for our city lands in conjunction with the construction of the Evergreen Line. And we will continue to represent the city's land interests in the Port Mann Highway 1 project and the Evergreen Line. So total expenditures are about $970,000, $294 in revenues, and about 81% of our costs are labor costs. Here's the breakdown for the expenditures. Total revenues of $294, and again that's $186,600 for rental houses, $61,000 from revenues from the province for the Evergreen consultant that we have working, and $46,700 for the land sale reserve funding into the land management group. In our 5-year capital budget, we have the technical work for land and properties, and that allows us capital money to do what's necessary to market our properties, such as undertaking appraisals and the like, getting properties ready by pre-servicing so that they're ready to bring to market. We'll have funding in the 5-year capital for the Evergreen Line, our great streets, as our city manager Pete Stevlin said, that council will have a say in terms of how we want to enhance the Evergreen Line and our streets as they relate to that major provincial project. And finally, the King Edward Overpass, the ongoing capital expenditures we have to complete all the work and to pay the province for our portion of the project. In terms of budget reductions, we have they're included in John's previous presentation in terms of we're reducing our consulting fees, and in terms of for requests, we have no new requests for council to consider for the 2011 budget year. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I have questions from Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. When I look at this report, there's a lot of overlapping in here. For instance, Port Mann Highway number 1, including King Edward Overpass project, was not handled by our engineering department. So where do you come in at this if the engineering department has been looking after it?
Mr. Mayor, I'm the lead general manager for the construction of the King Edward Overpass. I use Mr. Susak's staff, but I'm the lead for the project management to make sure everything is coordinated and tied in with the province. And the same for the Evergreen Line as well. I'm the lead GM, and it's my responsibility to make sure that everything's coordinated. And I use staff in both engineering and operations as well as planning department because there's such huge projects that we require the technical expertise. And rather than hiring more people and having them in my department, I'm using the expertise of current city staff and the other departments to deliver these projects. But again, I'm the lead GM and have the overall responsibility.
Okay, same with the Evergreen Line. The Evergreen Line has been worked on for a few years now. But however, the thing that bothers me is land and acquisition disposal. Wasn't that Perry Stashnisha that's doing that work for the city?
That's correct.
Okay, well, where do you come in on this? Negotiate lease, easement, and contract and related agreements. Wasn't also Stashnisha doing that?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Perry is the manager of that area, and he's responsible for day-to-day matters to coordinate all that, and he reports to me, and I ultimately report to the city manager, but that falls under our responsibility and strategic initiatives.
And also management support for rental housing and city land. That's Perry Stashnisha, providing consultation advice to other city departments. Yep. That seems to be a little far-reaching, Mayor. I'm wondering what all that is all about.
Well, Councillor Sikora, Perry is in this department. The report is about the department that includes Perry's position. Perry's in this department.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Perry was doing the work, and now we've got him reporting to somebody else.
Perry has always reported to someone else.
Well, I don't think he did. He reported direct to council one time.
If I could just give the background on that.
Yeah.
We did a specific review of that. Originally, the lands management position reported to corporate services, which was Trevor Wingrove at the time, When we did the review, we highlighted that there was a need to have additional GM exposure. That was one of the first reviews that we did. And then we looked at what the strategic pieces should do to make up that. And at that time, we moved Perry and all the land management expertise up underneath Maurice and transferred it over from the corporate services area.
I realize that, but you know what? It looks like we got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, good working relationship with a senior provincial government. We have to bring this special person in to have good relations, because this staff that's here can't have relations with the provincial government. We have to bring somebody that specializes in public relations, So, I can go on and on this, but really, frankly, I'll tell you what, we seem to be hiring policemen over top of policemen. Thank you very much.
Councillor Lynch.
All right, thank you. I was very pleased to see under the priorities and challenges about facilitating the needs of the business community, and I'm thinking of specifically down the industrial park. And we've been talking around some figures on committees, and I'm just curious, we have a business forum coming up that's going to be down at Red Robinson Theatre, and I'm wondering, so what does that cost us to put that on then, when we're talking about different venues, because we're going to be having it down there? How does that impact us? And it's a relatively late blooming decision, I would say.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Dumont will answer that question.
Through the chair, I believe the cost of hosting that business forum will actually be minimal. There was a cost in order to send out notices to the businesses, but I believe the Red Robinson Theatre has been good enough to provide the room and the setup at no cost to the city.
That was going to be my next question, because when I remember we were having deliberations about the Red Robinson Theatre, and that was one of the things they were obligating themselves to. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They're giving us the venue. That was one of the things we negotiated when we were contemplating moving forward with it.
Good. Perfect. We're in agreement. Thank you very much.
The next presentation is Mr. Jim McIntyre, the General Manager of Planning and Development.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Got a presentation here this morning on the Plan and Development Department and our budget. These will be the key components: overview, accomplishments, challenges, priorities, and then our 2011 financial plan. Overall structure in the department, nothing new here. It's the same setup and team as we've seen in years past. The administration group, general manager, and the three divisions. The community planning is the long-range policy group, development services, the development planning side, and then the building permits division. The administration area has 5 positions there. It's myself and the admin support group. That's our clerical group, and you see the budget implications. Community planning, as mentioned, that's the long-range policy side. Do various area and neighborhood plans plus other planning-related policies. 10 FTEs in that area, and you see the expenditures. On that, I should just point out there was one of the staff that was transferred from the community planning group to the development planning group earlier this year to give us a little more horsepower in that area. Development services, this is the busy group that brings forward the constant stream of reports week in, week out, on OCP, rezoning, development permits, and the like, as well as some of the other permits, such as the conservation permits. 2010 has been a very, very busy year. So you see year to date, I think that was mid-October, so we had a total of 202 applications had gone through or had been received by that point, and that compares to a total of 136 in 2009. 18 staff in that area. There are some revenues from the various application fees. We cover approximately a third of our costs of $1.7 million. The building permit area, 28 positions there. This is the group that's been very busy with reviewing and approving building permit, plumbing and demolition permit applications, as well as doing the inspection through the construction process. And again, in that area, 2010 has been a pretty active year. There's a total of just over 2,023 permit applications by mid-October, and that compares to 1972 last year total. Housing units approved this year to mid-October. A little over 904 units have been approved, again compared to last year of just over 700. Building permit construction value, and that's a good news piece. We're tracking at $247 million compared to $203 million in 2009. And hopefully in time that'll translate into an assessment-based growth that'll help with our tax situation. This is the one area of the department where revenues, given that high level of activity, exceed expenditures. You can see the $2.9 million versus $2.3 roughly of expenditures. A lot of accomplishments were achieved last year. I won't go through and read line by line. There's a lot of text on there, probably too much text, I apologize. But a couple things, and this was touched on by Pete in his opening remarks, and it's certainly number one priority in our department is the development application process and making continued improvements there. And there's been a series of reports that come forward to the Standing Committee and Council. There was a recent update provided. But you see some of the things that we've done over the past year, and we will continue on that track in 2011. One thing I'd like to just point to is that last bullet point there, the cross-department development review team. This is a fairly common sort of working group approach. We use that in Port Moody. It's used in other municipalities. And what you do there is you involve staff from the other departments, from engineering and leisure and parks and so on. And so you get that sort of coordinated group review and response. So you assist the applicant in providing more timely, complete, coordinated responses. So that's something that was initiated this year, and it seems to be working well. Some of the other things around the development application timeline tracking. We are now tracking the time it actually takes for a rezoning to go through or development permit. We're now reporting out on that. It's kind of a mixed bag, but I think it gives some indications of where we're at and how we're improving. Not only the process itself, but it's the tools in the toolbox, like principally our zoning bylaw, and we've been going in and coming forward with recommended amendments and improvements to that bylaw, as we will continue to do next year. One of the key ones was the industrial zone piece of work. We're still working through that, but the idea there is to down zone from 9 industrial zones now down to 3. So we're going through that process, and that was a big piece of work this past year. The other area, and I'm particularly proud of this, is the building permits division. We made some changes early in the year. We were fortunate to bring a very energetic consultant in, Rick Elliott, and he stepped in and assisted in guiding that division, but also kind of challenged them to step up and get involved. So there was a cyclical review that was completed, and that's been reported out to council. Part of that process that Rick was sort of driving was the creation of what we call a permit management group, the PMG. And that's been particularly successful in getting people to sort of step up, take on more responsibilities, become more involved. And this has been very, very helpful in being proactive, changing the mindset to problem solving, customer service, as opposed to being the regulatory gatekeeper. So that's one area that's I think has really shown. Some of the other work we do, which was done this year, and Maurice just touched on that, planning staff working with engineering, and Maurice's team have helped out with the King Ed Overpass, the Evergreen Rapid Transit Project. One piece of work here is the Great Streets concepts, and we'll be coming forward with that probably early in the new year with some interesting ideas there, as well as the greenhouse gas reduction. That was to meet the Bill 27 requirements. That was done mid-year. Some other areas, a little more contentious. The Gordon Avenue Emergency Shelter, we're into the OCP and rezoning process now. Along with that, sort of paralleling that, there's been this interim emergency shelter options, and we continue to work with the stakeholders there, and we'll be reporting out to council in due course. Something else Pete touched on in terms of our relationship and role at the regional level is the regional growth strategy. There's been a whole series of reports that come forward to council. A lot of work on staff's part, mine in particular personally, through the TAC, Technical Advisory Committee Working Group, chairing a group working with Metro Van staff to try to get the draft RGS a little more flexible and acceptable, I guess. And it's getting there, but there's still some outstanding concerns. Other work, Austin Heights Neighborhood Plan, we've been before committee and council on that a couple times, hoping to get that back to council before the end of the year. Housing choices, we've actually got a report coming forward this afternoon to the Land Use Committee. I think it's a good piece of work. We're moving along, but there still may be some questions and some need to continue working with that, but fair enough. Some other stuff more particular in the building area, working again with engineering and bylaws in terms of some of the construction issues and trying to promote an approach of best management construction practices, and I think that's been, I think we're seeing the results of that. And lastly, after a barrage of OCP amendments over time, and just to give some guidance to that and some basis for considering whether support or not, we came forward with the OCP amendment assessment criteria, and that was considered by committee and council and adopted. So we have that now. Looking ahead, as mentioned, we want to obviously carry on with the development application process improvements, and now that we're tracking our own time with the time it takes from a rezoning application coming in or a development permit or a subdivision, a big part of that is the time it goes back to the applicant and their consultant team. And so sometimes our comments will go back and we won't hear anything for 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And then at the end of the time, it's doubled the process. Well, maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's also been in their court. So the concept of what we call like a chess clock, where when it's in your court, the clock is ticking on your side, you're responsible. But when it's back with the applicant, it's their time. As mentioned, we want to complete the industrial zone review. It's a big piece of work. It's going to affect a lot of properties and businesses, but I think ultimately it's necessary and it will be beneficial. But there's going to be some challenges working through that. The other big zoning bylaw piece we're working on right now is the city center zone, the C4 zone, looking at the potential for additional densities, a system of bonus density, and possibly get a report through the council by the end of the year, but more likely very earlier than New Year. So we'll be back to you on that. Transportation planning, this arises on occasion, particularly with development permit applications where there's a parking variance, and we seem to have ongoing concerns with that. So we want to work with the transportation planning staff, who's now, that group is fully staffed and got some really good people on board, so we want to work with them to look at our parking standards. The Evergreen project is something that Maurice touched on. What we would like to do is move to a process where staff could review and provide advice around the project, and this is, I'm thinking of the stations and that, not so much the guideway. That's an engineering structural consideration, but in time, if these stations were to house CRUs, commercial rental units, we would hope that they would then go to the typical or the standard building permit and business license process. So we want to sort of set the basis for that through this review and advice protocol. Other challenges up in the northeast, we want to reactivate and complete the Pardon Creek neighborhood plan. That's the fourth of the 4 neighborhood plans in the northeast, as well as complete Austin Heights neighborhood plan. Some work around the Evergreen project, Maillardville's another neighborhood plan that's maybe not progressing quite as fast as we'd like. As well, we want to implement some of the changes that we're recommending in the building permits division to sort of capitalize on and move forward with the improvements we've seen there. And as well, we want to carry on with the building permit delivery turnaround times for applications. The bottom line, we're not a big area. Our total expenditures in plan development is almost $5.8 million, of which almost $3.5 is recovered through various revenues. So that's roughly a 2/3 recovery rate. So our net expenditures, our impact on the taxpayer is $2.3 million. Our area is quite labor intensive, so our labor costs are the main part of the budget, 95%. And that just breaks it down by the various areas and divisions in the department. Revenues, these are projected for next year. So based on our anticipation of activity levels and our current fee structure, these are the revenues we could expect next year. We do have a modest capital program. This is for 5 years, and this is for our neighborhood plan and area plan programs to support those. And I think that's it. Yeah. Happy to take any questions. I agree.
The chair is just getting a drink, so in the absence of questions, I can perhaps call the break that is scheduled for not far off at this time.
We'll call for a break because this is a perfect department of the chapter.
Yes. Okay. We have a break until 11:15.
That's a week. It's a week apart. We have no questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we're going to put up with Mr. Suzak trying to convince us that flat stuff and buried stuff is important.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will try to be as brief, succinct, but with all the relevant information as possible. This is the standard template that we're using. We'll do an overview. We'll talk about 2010, our priorities moving forward, along with challenges, and get into some details of the financial plan. We're organized in this way. We have 5 divisions. As you know, I'll be speaking to this later. We have done some reorganization. Mark Zaborniak runs design, construction, and administrative support. Stephanie Warner runs environmental services. Dana Sung is our engineering and public works planner, if you will, planning infrastructure long term. Excuse me. Catherine Mahorak manages transportation planning, and Jamie Umpleby runs public works. I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide because I think 2010 has been a rather extraordinary year for us. You know, what we do and what we can do fundamentally in my mind is based first on gaining credibility and trust and maintaining it. And this is one of the venues in which we do that. And you know, moving into this presentation, we're certainly happy to hear if you have different views or different ideas on where priorities might lie. I'm going to start first with what I think is probably the most important work that we've done this year, and that is look at our organization. It couldn't have happened without clear support from both council and the city manager. We think that we have lifted up this organization quite substantively, both in the public works and environment side. Fleet is a part of the public works. We intend on reporting out next month on both of those reviews. One, informing you what has been done in the broad overall public works division, and 2, you need a report out on our fleet review. We intend on doing that next month. The obvious, most visible highlight has been the infrastructure stimulus projects. I'll have a few slides right after this. It's, like I say, it's been extraordinary. I think there are 2 reasons why this happened. One was council had the policies in place that allowed us to pounce on these opportunities. We had the financial capacity. And on the other side, on the staff side, we've had an extraordinary team execute these projects, principally led by Mark Zaborniak, but it's been a corporate-wide effort. We have a lot to learn there too. The public has put up with a fair bit. We've done the major highway work, but the ultimate benefit is significant. There's been an extraordinary lift to Coquitlam infrastructure. We've actually managed to stretch out the scope because the council deals with their budgets on this timeline. That is, you will be making a full budget decision before Christmas. Staff knows where they stand with respect to funding allocations. In the case of the infrastructure stimulus projects, we were out on the street first. We were out on the street in February. We secured extraordinary prices for our construction. And one of the reasons why we have Austin Road completely repaved almost is because we got those great prices early in the year, and we were able to stretch our dollars. And there's even more that we were able to do down in the schoolhouse, King Ed area. Next up, United Boulevard extension. We will be coming forward in the next council meeting this coming Monday with a report that discusses what is a very good news story for Coquitlam. The King Ed overpass obviously is under construction. It should be open to traffic, at least a minimum of 2 lanes by the end of 2011, with full completion sometime during 12. We provide a great deal of support for the Evergreen Rapid Transit project. and our corporate goal of gaining a station and getting that line under construction. We have had significant input, like the planning department on the RGS. We have spent a lot of time trying to steer the region in certain directions and maintain flexibility both in solid waste and liquid waste plans. And I really thank the council for getting into those topics. Those are huge dollar issues, and they have long-run implications for future generations. Corporate energy management has, I think, is one of our highlights this year. Just this past year alone, we've managed to save about $150,000 that goes directly to an annual budget saving through the work that's being done corporate-wide in our environmental services division. And we've introduced our Green Can program. That will take a good deal of work to keep on top of, because that is where we can save a lot of money in the future. I'll speak to that when we get into the solid waste utility and the issues of where's the real money going in solid waste and how can we minimize our costs. And that program is a straight line to minimizing costs. Next one. Few photos. Low Heat Highway. Next, please. Just a selection of photos of the activity that we had this year, and really do want to thank the team that put this together. Schoolhouse is now fully baselift, as is King Edward, fully baselift, curb to curb. This work is along the frontage of the park. A little bit more of the civil construction, and one more. These are one of our programs. We have an environmental services division that's involved in public programs. This is one of them. And our annual environmental awards that we intend on having again next June. And one more last photo. This is again around the Mackin Park frontage, and this is Nelson Creek relocation as a part of the King Edward. Challenges and priorities. We have DCC revenues. They are coming back because obviously development has picked up a little bit, but a lot of them are pre-committed. For example, advancing David Avenue and whatnot, requires careful management of those revenues. Highway 1 corridor construction will continue to be challenge, priority, communication, and technical. We will be devoting a great deal of time over the next year toward United Boulevard and Brunette corridors. Those are critical corridors for social and economic success of Coquitlam. Evergreen Line consumes a fair bit of the time of our transportation section. We will be continuing quite a bit with what we need to do to ramp up recycling, reuse, diversion. Northeast Coquitlam development continues to be a high priority. The cyclical review implementation, which you will be getting a report out next month, continues to be a high priority. And the issue of how much infrastructure we have. I just want to stay on that slide for just a moment. I just want to give yourselves and the listening public a quick view of your community hard infrastructure that supports everyone. You own about 480 kilometers of sanitary main. This is not the connections. This is just the main pipes. You own about 490 kilometers of water main. You own about 1,100 lane kilometers of roadway. You have in excess of 220 traffic signals, and you have about 8,500 street lights, and it goes on and on. And that issue of the amount of inventory that we have is significant to Coquitlam. It's actually a part of why it was so important for us to do the Public Works cyclical review in the first place, because we need to really take a much more proactive asset management approach to that inventory and squeeze efficiencies out of how we invest on maintenance, how we invest on capital replacement. You almost run a mini GVRD. You have an extraordinary number of pumping stations. I'm just trying to see if I can pull this out. 24 water utility pump stations and reservoirs, 59 sanitary pumping stations. It's quite a complex jurisdiction geographically and topologically. So it's quite fun actually to do the work, but it has its challenge. Next slide, please. Operating budget summary. On the general funds alone, this does not include the utilities. I'll be getting into the utilities in a moment. Total expenditures, 13 million. We take in revenues for service connections and whatnot, and we take in revenues from fees that developers pay for inspection activities. Our labor costs are just over 60% on the general fund side. A lot of the balance of that general fund side is materials and supplies, salt, sand, those sorts of things. Expenditures are broken down by operating division. Clearly, public works with work control and roadways and whatnot has the majority of it. Design and construction and implementation of our capital programs. Infrastructure planning. Environmental services is a new division, and that's a new budget line item, and we also have transportation planning. Next, please. Total revenues, 1.9 million, if you will, public works. Like I say, a lot of that is requests from developers and whatnot, design and construction. Again, these are payments mostly from developers for our inspection activities. Next. I want to have a chat now with this issue. We struggled a bit and debated a fair bit internally about this. We are proposing to offer a couple of positions. We have been in 2 years of vacancy management. We've also gone through a significant cyclical review, and we think that we are achieving a fair bit of efficiencies. You probably see this from time to time, especially on the road side. I think that our level of service on that side has grown significantly, and I think we've got a very good handle on, like I say, squeezing efficiencies out of what we do. And we debated a number of ways to provide you with some service reductions, and some of the other ways you can instruct us and we'll go there, but some of the other ways are really very simple. We could say, pave a half a block less or a block less or whatever, next year, and save you your 120 or your 130. That has its own implications over time. And there are other ways where we can take a look at, maybe we should be, reducing level of service on infrastructure that the public sees. Washing signs less, or maybe trying to squeeze a bit more out of the sidewalks and whatnot. We had that debate. We decided that that's probably not, that wasn't our recommendation. We can go there, but it would clearly have some level of service implications, so that's why we're settled on this. You also recently received the cyclical review financial summary, and that separate exercise went through asking the question, what would be the potential impact of a full 5% cut on the budget? And you have that binder. Our conclusion is that we've already cut 2 years, and 2 years in a row, and we feel that if we were to go to that level, there would be some clear level of service issues, and so our recommendation has not been to go to that level of cut. This does not mean, and I need to say this does not mean that you will not be seeing us come forward sometime in the future for additional positions. And what I mean by that is the cyclical review for Public Works has pointed out likely efficiencies in starting up a construction division. We have a lot of work to do to operationalize that. And that's only going to happen when we're satisfied that the detailed business case proves it. We would not be looking at any fundamental increases in a budget, but it would be taking some elements of what we currently send to contractors and asking ourselves, could we do that more efficiently? And that is work that we are going to be doing in 2010. So there may well be a request to operationalize a construction division sometime next year. Jamie Umpleby and his crew have still a lot of work to do to get there, but we anticipate being able to make that decision later in 2011. Next are a couple of new requests. The first two are definitely net zeros. The energy manager is, in our view, paying his way by looking for energy efficiencies, creating them, and we feel that that's a good one to have. It's important from, I guess, an even more strategic perspective, because if we are to meet our greenhouse gas targets corporately and community-wise, we're going to need a resource like that in order to get there. The second one is an engineering inspector. It's a long-time funded position that has been, from what I understand, a TFT for many, many years. The funding is there, and we simply want to convert that to a regular full-time position. The balance of the slides, we've had some further chats about that. Our sense of priority, if you will, for the maintenance request is more on the UCC operator overtime hours. We don't have a high sense of, or a similar sense of priority for the OT on the superintendents or the transportation planning technician. But the UCC operator does deal with after-hours emergency events, and just want to give you that feedback in terms of where our thinking is for priorities on those on those three. Next, please. Service enhancements requests. The bylaw coordinator for Northeast issues, it's what we've been calling colloquially in-house the dirty construction guy, if you will. This is all about helping developers help us in delivering a more robust construction process, especially for the Northeast. I think a number of elected officials have had calls and photo or email or whatever regarding runoff from various sites. Our view is that we probably need to do this not only from an environmental protection perspective, but also a liability perspective. The dirty water, if you will, gets into the city's drainage facility, and once we're carrying it, we have some liability. And our intent would be to utilize this position to coordinate with the developers' best practices, really to mandate to the developers' best practices, as well as reducing our liability profile on carrying that cloudy water. We think that we have a variety of options for funding sources, and I don't know if we want to talk about that now or if that's more for your day in a couple of weeks. But we feel that there are a variety of places that we can go in terms of minimizing impacts on the general fund. Similar thought on the Bear Aware. The incremental dollars required for the Bear Aware coordinator is about $30,000. And we currently fund the cost of that position through the solid waste utility. And we came to council with a report to say, let's forward this to council for the discussion. And we had said in the report, we just made an assumption through the solid waste utility. And I know that you want to have a more fulsome discussion about, well, where should that funding source come from? And again, that's something that we can get into details, if you wish, in a couple of weeks. Just for your information, what council should know is with the last collections contract, Coquitlam entered for the first time in a revenue sharing relationship with the contractor for recyclables, and it is showing to create a revenue stream. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I believe in the first year, a couple of years ago, we only had 6 months of the contract. I believe the total revenues were around 30,000, and those have grown since. And we are anticipating having a reasonable revenue stream carried within the solid waste utility from those recyclables. So just information, and something that we can discuss in more detail in a couple of weeks. Clearly, if your preference is to fund this from general fund, then there will have to be some discussions, about that implication. But I just want to let you know that there might be some room in your waste utility. I want to spend a bit of time on the transportation side, emphasizing where we're going with our five-year capital plan, and that's obviously a big one, and we are carrying a full budget for this in our program. Like I say, we should be able to travel on that overpass in about a year, and it should be fully complete sometime in 2012. Next, please. It's a graphical representation of the broad funding envelopes that we're trying to create in the city's major road network capital program. Over on the left-hand side where you see the purplish blue, that's a funding source from TransLink, and that amounts to somewhere around $700,000 annually. Now that money could double if the TransLink board adopts a certain kind of a supplemental package. So there might be more money, but that's its own set of discussions. But at the minimum, we have $720,000 from TransLink. The rest is the city's share, and what we are attempting to do over the next 5 years for the MRN capital plan is essentially create a saving program, if you will, so that we can pay for the two largest aspects of that program. One is the King Ed Overpass, and the other is preparing ourselves for the Great Streets program. This in no way is allocating it. You do that on a year-by-year basis. This is just showing you our broad strategic planning, if you will, in order to carry those two principal projects over the next 5 years. This is a good news story. Every year, the city receives money from TransLink for what's known as operations, maintenance, and rehabilitation of the MRN, the major road network. And the TransLink board last month confirmed that it's okay for us to utilize the rehab component of the annual grant to pay back our Lougheed-Barnett advanced repaving projects. And we're really quite happy about that, because obviously that has positive implications for the city getting quicker back into its, say, local road program. We still have to cut back the local road, but if we weren't able to do that, we would have had a major implication on our collector network and our local road program. Next. This is the highlights for next year. These are the programs for next year. The $10 million is the broad 5-year funding envelope, and this is specifically where we intend to spend the community corridor rehab money for next year. Westwood, Como Lake off the Lougheed Highway, Pine Tree and Plateau will be up in the Westwood area, a section of Poirier between Foster and Smith, and then down at Victoria Drive. And just to focus, this is rehab. This is not improvements and et cetera. This is for protection of the life of the asset. Next, please. And I'm pleased to say we have salvaged a reasonable amount for the local road program over the next 5 years. It is cut down from before, but these are the streets that we intend to get at in 2011. You will note that we have Laurentian targeted as a rehab program. And I also want to mention the Denison, Mentmore, Roxham area. About 2 years ago at a public meeting, a gentleman came forward and said, well, what about our streets? And, frankly, it wasn't on our radar. And this is one of the very good aspects of having these meetings, is that citizens get to come forward, bring something to our attention. And we took that back to staff, and they did the evaluation, and that little area will be getting road rehabs. So thank you. Mobility and safety includes a lot of different actions. Sidewalk programs included, bicycle facilities, ICBC safety improvement programs are in there. We've got LED traffic signal lights, traffic signal program, and as well as accessible intersections are a part of this funding envelope of $7 million over the next 5 years. We should have a slide that shows what we're doing. Yes, 2011 sidewalk program. We'll be adding about 1.2 kilometers of sidewalks with these projects: Dawes Hill, Regan, Town Centre, Draycott, Pipeline Road, and Robinson. The last two, the Pipeline Road and Robinson sidewalks, actually dropped out of that walkability study, and it's that study that's the funding mechanism for those two additional sidewalks. Next,
sorry, on that last slide, it only says the name of the street, but it doesn't say the cross street to cross street.
Oh, okay. I've got some notes, and my apologies. We were, I guess, a bit too... we've got South Side, Dawes Hill Road, Mundy Street to Finnegan. Okay. North Side, Regan, from Parkland Elementary to Schoolhouse. Town Centre Boulevard from the Aquatic Centre to the north end of the Town Centre Boulevard. The east side of Draycott from Austin to Venice Avenue. The Pipeline Road project is from Glen Drive and Robinson Street, Como Lake to Egmont. And my apologies for
that's helpful.
missing that detail.
No, that's okay.
And next, please. Sense of what our high priorities are for the next year and actually many years. The work that we do is often large, strategic, multi-year, and they continue on. The first project up there, the STP update, will really set the community's priorities for transportation over the next 10 years. It's a very important piece of work, and we will be rolling out further public meetings over the next few months. There's a lot more technical work to do to test options and what's the best payback. We anticipate having this plan finalized late spring, early summer. We're targeting June to come forward with a final plan for you. North Fraser Perimeter Road and Brunette Interchange improvements are absolutely critical to the future of Coquitlam. We've mentioned this once before. I think Council's aware that some time ago the province took out of scope the Brunette Interchange from the current Portman Highway 1 program, and there is logic in that, because at the time there were discussions going on about what to do about North Fraser, how would Blue Mountain fit, et cetera, and now that we have a little bit of certainty on some elements of the North Fraser Perimeter Road going ahead, we want to get back to the province and start chatting about, well, what is reasonably feasible to do to Brunette. We have a fair bit of input from the Millardville community about how difficult it is to access the Braid Street station, and it's an issue that we need to pursue. We'll be continuing on with Gateway and the Evergreen program, helping out Maurice and Pete on those. We need a parking management policy review. It's been in our books for a while, and we have to get with that in 11. There's a number of components to that. There are operational components, and there are also planning components, and safety initiatives also. So, next. Okay, moving on to utilities. First up, solid waste. And in this slide, we'll spend a little bit of time on this slide just to focus on some significant aspects of the cost. The the city costs for administering this program are about 10%. The major dollars are in the collection contract, which, as you can see, is $5.6 million. We service about 25,000 single-family households with that collection contract. The second line disposal costs are the tipping fees to Metro Vancouver, and that is where we need to pay a lot of attention over the next 5 years in order to save some money. Those fees are going to increase dramatically over the next 5 years. They've already increased significantly over the past year. And that's the area where we feel we can at least ease the pain. The costs will go up, but we have to find a way of reducing the volume, the tonnage of material that hits those disposal costs. Next. The rate increases are exclusively related to GVRD tipping fees. We've already had some chats in other reports previous to this date on what it might mean to Coquitlam to perform its part of the municipal actions, and Council has been very clear that you want a firm hand on what those costs might be. It's going to be a bit of a balancing act. From my perspective, we will have to invest in some way in diversion. And hence that means, that part of the municipal actions. Because there will be a payoff if we can find a way to reduce the amount that we're throwing out into transfer stations. That frankly almost becomes a funding source, if you will. It's an avoided cost, and there is huge dollars involved in that, hundreds of thousands potential savings if we can go from a current general 50% diversion to somewhere near 70%. Right now we're spending about $2 million, as you saw on the previous slide. If we could just not throw away 20%, there's 400,000 right there at current rates, and those rates are going to increase. So, there may be some questions. I'm happy to take them if, okay. Okay, next one, I can move on to...
There are some. Why don't we...
Sure.
Why don't we pause right now?
We can pause.
Give a break and then get nailed with some questions. Councillor Reid.
Mine go back to the new requests, and it's regarding that Thermonex. I thought it was called something different, but the plant that we have, it's at the beginning under new requests in the engineering, just the department. So the energy manager, it's not costing us anything, but during the opening of the Poirier Centre, I got to talk with the gentleman that owns that company and Brian, one of the managers for TASK. And they told me that they had a pipe already going from that facility ready to go across the street. And I thought that was great pre-planning, which is good. But they were quite excited about the amount of money that they felt that they were going to be able to save. And I'm quite excited about it too. And what I want to know is the person who's doing this energy management, are they looking into the feasibility of moving that system across the street for Dogwood and the buildings over there? And are we looking, because according to the gentleman that owns the company, that would be about a $70,000 touch. But I mean, if we can heat all those buildings and within 2 or 3 years recoup our investment, it makes sense. But are we also looking into this quadrant where we could heat this building, the RCMP building, the Evergreen, and the pool? Those are the things I want to know, because that's, to me, what a big part of the job I would like to see an energy manager do.
Sure, thank you for the comments. Our division manager is away on vacation this week, so I haven't got the details. But I do know that the remit of this energy manager is to look corporate-wide and find savings. I take that under advisement. You have an interest in making sure that we are saving money by extending that pipe across the street.
No. Yeah. So I'd like to know that, and I'd be particularly interested in this precinct. And my next question is with the parking management review. We pay significant dollars out to InPark to do our parking management. Are we considering in-house? Because I would like to see that option as well and save the money and get more bylaw officers so they could be out doing more things.
Thank you. Totally. That's why we need InPark to do that work.
To know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councillor Lynch.
Thank you. Kind of a few general questions, guys. You were talking about the rehabilitation, and I was wondering, are we still doing the sealing of fissures, or are we? At one time, we looked at micropaving, I think it was called, where we put surface level. Which way are we going on that right now?
Sure. I might draw on the Public Works Director if we need more detail, but we have a crack sealing program. I'm not sure if we do micro surfacing or not, Jamie, but I know that we have a fairly robust crack sealing program. Okay. The response is that we had an unsuccessful experience with micro surfacing, but we do have a crack sealing program.
Okay, thank you. The construction division you referenced, and from what I've heard about that, I think it sounds like the right way to go, but we obviously haven't had one before, so is the reason that we haven't had one in the past, is it more philosophical from council, or was it costing, or I'm just wondering why at this time it seems like the right direction to go, why haven't we done it before?
Mr. Suzak, very quickly, the clerk has just provided a portable microphone as well, so that if there are more questions directed at staff, they'll have a microphone available. Go ahead.
Sure. I don't have the background on that. I know that that's something that we thought through during the public. Now, whether or not that's been something that was thought of years and years ago, I'd have to ask staff that have been here at that time. But I don't think it's been really seriously considered.
I can help you out there because it is something that I highlighted as part of the review. It partially is philosophical, partially it's economics. What we have done is that we believe by better managing of the area, we can be cost effective with contractors. We still have to do a little bit more review on that. I am a believer in that if we effectively manage an area, there's no reason why the public side cannot compete effectively with the private side, especially if we have long-term programs and they can be more responsive and a variety of other things. Some organizations philosophically say we're not going to go there, and I can give you lots of examples of that. Other organizations philosophically have said we do a lot in-house. Vancouver, for one, has historically done a lot in-house. And, from my perspective, I believe there's significant advantages if you can cost-effectively do that. And there's a pride issue. There's an issue that goes through your entire public works organization if they can effectively compete with the private sector, and you can get spin-off benefits in a variety of other areas. So I have actually encouraged a review of that area. We put it in as part of the engineering ops cyclical review. The jury is still out. We supported it in principle, subject to the economics bearing out, and that is something that Jamie Ampleby is in the process of looking at a little bit more detail. Having discussions with the union, because what we're going to want to do is to be assured that we are able to do that cost effectively, and sometimes we need to work out a bit of deal on the work hours and all those kind of things. So I hope that gives you some further background on that.
That's helpful, thank you. My last comment has to do, it's not really sidewalks, but we'll call it sidewalks. And we've had some interest in whether or not we're going to use paving stones, some of the difficulty we have with the sidewalking being disrupted and stuff. I recently saw, and I don't know if this is new or just the first time I've become aware of it, in the city of Maple Ridge, they've gone to where they're doing almost like a painting on the sidewalk that has like a geometric design. So at first glance, it actually looked like there was some paving stones. It wasn't the concrete design or that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if we've done that before, or have you heard of that? Is that a way for us to consider saving money when we're trying to have a nice visual appearance to our sidewalk in the downtown core?
There are various kinds of treatments, special treatments. Some of them might just be surface types of treatment where it might be a painting-like application. My top of mind is that chances are that's going to wear out fairly soon and not necessarily be robust in the long run. There are other technologies, for example, in concrete and especially stamped concrete applications. There are some companies out there that are actually able to create what I call designer mixes, where the concrete is fully colored. It's not just simply a surface application. And we would definitely be open to that kind of application where we know that we have long-run performance.
I was wondering if we get a few more comments back. This was done on the Logate Highway, so I'm assuming it's something they've looked at very seriously, and it should be something that's going to be resilient. I could be wrong, but I'd like to know, and perhaps that could be directed through Chair Asmussen's committee.
We can follow up.
Standing. Thank you. Councillor Sikora.
Thank you very much. With water and certainly and solid waste going up at 18% per year, that's pretty frightening. One thing I'd like to mention is the Nelson Creek is a beautiful, beautiful way of doing. You did a tremendous job in there. It's really beautiful. I really appreciate seeing that. The one thing I'd like to mention about solid waste, Mr. Zuzak, can we ever tell GVRD or Metro Vancouver to get lost in having in-house solid waste? Get rid of the Metro Vancouver?
Do you have a backyard?
Can we tell Metro Vancouver to get lost, Mr. Zuzak?
Say it loudly, please.
I think that's possible if we wanted to do it, and I'm sure there are other municipalities can do the same. Maybe we can get rid of that beast.
What I would say is that council can have choices about how far and where they want to go in any particular service category. What needs to be kept in mind is think through the long-run impacts. If Coquitlam were to so-called go it alone on any particular regional service, we would have to have a very robust business plan with some certainty that we can actually carry it out. We haven't gone down that road in terms of our own, thinking in terms of our own disposal facility, for example. That would be a huge amount of work. But you do have the option, but it would carry its own set of implications.
So for clarity, that's essentially with all of the utilities, the opt-out is always available to us, assuming that we find it to be something.
I'm going to ask Pete. He has far more experience at the regional level than I do.
Jump in this. I have a tremendous amount of history and experience in this area. But let me just give you it is not possible to opt out of the sewer and water utilities because we're integrated into the pipe network. The solid waste system was, in the hundreds of years of history of local government, it was a Johnny-come-lately. Metro Vancouver did not originally have the authority to do that, and it was not until I believe it was in the late 70s, early 80s that they started getting into that issue. For example, Vancouver always had their own landfill. North Shore had their own landfill. Coquitlam had its own landfill. But it evolved into a very more of a comprehensive strategy at the regional level. With the one exception, Vancouver and Delta always had some autonomy. Now, when they approve solid waste management plans, which are going through that, it does bind the municipalities into that system. And about 10 years ago, Surrey actually tried to break away from those commitments, and it resulted in a lot of threatened lawsuits between Metro and Surrey. And it is very difficult once you're in that system to break away. Not impossible, but very difficult. It involves both legal considerations and provincial considerations in terms of how you do all those kind of things. At the end of the day, Surrey backed away from that and did not pursue that. At the time, they were considering exporting waste to the States, to the Rembanco system, which Metro at the time was totally against. Then in the fullness of time, Metro itself started looking at those systems. From my perspective, theoretically, it is possible, very, very, very difficult, and a host of issues, and I would not advise this council to do it alone. If many other municipalities were saying, hey, let's look at it in a different kind of way, then there might be some traction there. I am not aware at the present time of any other municipalities contemplating such a move, and so I would therefore advise council not to go there.
Well, I'd like to have a study on it, because even going with other municipalities, because whatever happens, and we keep going with Metro, Mayor, they're going to sink us. They're going to sink us lock, stock, and barrel. They'll break this municipality and other municipalities. So, you know, I'm glad that you've got the 2 jobs that you're saving in your certainly in your file. The one thing that bothers me, that, you know, we're going into bear aware full time. I don't think that if it's a choice between policemen and firemen or a bear aware, where do you think the bear aware would be? It'd be the bottom of the pile. And I think when we have restraint on our budget and stuff like that, we must look at it. You know, I don't see any reason why we can't get by, and we have to add staff on for our bear aware, whatever it may be. I'd rather add policemen and firemen onto it. You know, and you know, when you see in your position there, you're saying 2 jobs. If every department in this city hall eliminated 1 job, I think our budget would be probably 0 increase. Okay? So that's some of the things that I'm saying. Thank you very much.
I do want to make sure that we're focused on clarifications at this point. Well, there will be lots of opportunities for us to debate as council the various presentations that have been made. If we can stick to questions, and I with great trepidation remind Councillor Sikora, with great trepidation, that he may have the opportunity to tell Metro Vancouver on Friday, as he's representing this council and my replacement. Although if he does tell them to get lost, I'm not certain they will necessarily go away quickly.
We may not tell them to get lost, but we may tell them to go play hide and seek.
Okay. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. A question, Mr. Cusack, you may not be able to answer this, so it might be for Ms. McLeod. You referred to policies that previous councils and this council had in place so that we could capitalize on the stimulus funding, and I just want a reminder of what were those policies that we've had that have allowed us to be ready to capitalize on that money?
I'll sort of give my overview, and then Sheena is the master of this, but basically it comes down to a secured amount of money per year that is in the base operating budget. Council, for a number of years, increased the funding for roads. They call it the 1% for roads policy year for 5 years. So there was a pot of money there that was secured funding. And what we did, in order to capitalize both on the external money and the very low prices, we used that source of money. That source of money primarily augmented a bit by the TransLink funding that Bill highlighted as a future funding source, and we went on the short-term borrowing market to borrow the money that the city needed to do to come up with, and then we were paying it back to future revenue. So we did basically 5 years of funding of road paving in 1 year. And the logic is that we've pulled that all forward. Our roads are in very, very good shape now, and we should be able to very easily live with a reduced amount of road paving in the future. We did more paving than we're going to have to reduce it by, because both the effect of the federal and provincial money and the effect of the very good funding. So it was a very, very good deal for the community. But primarily it was that historical funding that was put into the base budget that gave us the ability to borrow against the future without affecting the operating budget. Many other municipalities had to say, well, how are we going to come up with a third share? And they couldn't come up with it, and so it provided a drag on them. They had to then fund that third share by increasing their base operating budget. We did not have to do that.
Thank you. Yep, I got it. So sticking with this idea of roads, and I'm just looking at going through our package. So is it fair to say that we spend about $15 million a year on roads? Is that sort of if I'm 16, maybe a bit more 16, the road rehab between the two?
If I have my numbers correct, I think our standard road rehab program budget, I believe, is in the ballpark of $7 or $8 million. Mark, is that about right? $7 to $8 million standard road rehab budget.
Well, we have the CCRN.
Those are 5 year. Those are 5 year spending envelopes.
Spending.
Yeah, that's right. That's
okay.
Right.
So in 1 year, they're about 7 million, 6 million.
7 million, say, ballpark.
Okay, and so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, and I'm thinking about the the energy manager we have and the greenhouse gas reductions that we're committed to doing, and looking at what we're spent on road rehab and what we put into alternate forms of transportation, and does our budget accurately reflect our commitments to reduce greenhouse gases in our community and where we put our budget dollars. So like I'm thinking about the sidewalk programs, the cycling infrastructure is far less than $1 million a year, and I just would like to see this council sort of have a discussion, a robust discussion about, does that really reflect the direction we ought to be moving? Not talking about increasing or decreasing, but just shifting some money around in terms of what our priorities are. So I'm just hoping that we can have that kind of conversation. Not increasing taxes around it, but just taking a look at where are we putting the resources that we do have around transportation. So.
Okay. Sure. I mean, the one comment I would have is to as a priority, take care of what you have, rehab what you have, and I think the discussion for the council table is, well, when it comes to capital, when it comes to improvements, should we be investing more or less on bigger roads or more curbs or whatever, versus transferring some of that capital over to sidewalks or cycling or whatever.
It's a capital conversation.
And that's a discussion for the council to have.
That's fair enough. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Rasmussen.
Just a clarifying question. It's on your new request about the bylaw coordinator for Northeast. I don't know if it fully gives a description to council of what we had talked about, what's needed up there. Is that more as a site inspector with bylaw powers to find and ticket? And just not for the Northeast, but for all of Coquitlam, because we have challenging issues. And we years ago had a site inspector, and we eliminated the position. All our present inspectors don't have this skill set, and it's something that we're seeing some issues crop up with it. I think it's a needed position. We can fund it, hopefully, out of development fees, fines, and other funds to make it a net zero would be my hope. But I just want to, for council, that's more of a, because when you say a bylaw coordinator, I don't think it touches on what the work is needed to be done there.
You're absolutely right. I'm looking at that, and really we're talking about a coordinator for site construction issues. Now, the whole issue came forward because of problems in the Northeast, and that was a very, very strong focus, and it still is a strong focus. An awful lot of construction activity there, and hence a lot of the problems are up there, the dirty roads, what have you. We would intend that this coordinator for site construction issues be working citywide. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do in the Northeast, but it would be a resource for city centre, Southwest, anywhere where there is significant construction and where there could be site development issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Councillor Zakora has one more question. Remember, we're not going to debate this one, and he's promised it's going to be really short. It's a question.
No, how many years ago did you eliminate the road sealing program?
Road sealing. If you're talking about crack sealing, we have not eliminated the crack sealing program. I think the city's fallen behind on the application of some of its techniques. I have no doubt about that, and that's and that was an issue that we became aware of as we worked through the cyclical review. We felt that we needed to strengthen our ability to plan, direct, coordinate, manage the crews accordingly, and we are getting back on track with the crack sealing program. To be clear, the city's never abandoned it, but I don't think it has done a great job over a number of years. And we're getting back into that business more aggressively.
What has happened, Mayor, is the fact is that, you look at Mariner, Mariner was done about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, as far as the ceiling is concerned, and that ceiling is eliminated, the rebuilding of a road. And sealing, when you see a split on the road and you seal it, it'll certainly preserve the land, replacing that road for 5 or 10 years. So this is what I'm saying, that, although we're throwing a lot of money in the road refurbishing and resealing, or not resealing, rebuilding, but I think we should do a lot more resealing, and certainly the lifespan of the roads will be far greater, far longer than we have to replace them. Thank you.
Okay.
We did agree we weren't going to debate these things, and in fact, Mr. Suzak did say that we've reviewed that and coming forward with a bunch more sealing efforts. So seeing none others, thank you very much. Next side of your report.
Yeah, are into the utilities. Just let me make sure I've got the right page in my own notes. Sewer and drainage. In all of the utilities, the single largest line item, of course, is the regional charges. In this case, it's for treatment. All of the numbers are before you. We are trying to do our best for contributions to asset replacement. This keeps costs down for the future. Our capital program for next year is about $2.8 million. And the labor cost of running the full sewer and drainage utility about $4.5 million. You can read through that. The other category, just top of mind, are issues like supplies and charges for electricity and whatnot. This is the picture for the next 5 years. It's reasonably modest, if you will, from a GVRD levy perspective. These are only rising by 4%. And we're able to contain our costs. What may well happen in the future as the GVRD works through its liquid waste management plan and issues of cost allocation, which are out there, these numbers in outer years might change, and we are going to be paying very careful attention to what that might be as they have that debate. These are the highlights of our program for next year. City Center, sanitary pumping station, I&I. I&I is very, very important. It reduces the rainfall that's captured into the sewer system, and it saves costs. Because the more stormwater you have in a sanitary system, then you're going to be driving regional charges, and your regional charges will start going up because you need more capacity. And we like to keep on top of sewer pipe upgrading, and we will need money for Northeast Coquitlam. Next slide. Drainage is a similar story, $20 million over the next 5 years or so, by far most of it devoted toward the Northeast. Very similar programs in drainage, where we have a rehab program, upgrade programs. We still have a storm sewer extension program, and the other two larger expenditures are erosion control and works that we might be doing in Scott Hoy Creek. Water utility. Over half of it is water purchases. I'll speak to that a little bit later in terms of Coquitlam citizens' assistance in keeping costs down. We run a very similar set of line items, contribution to asset replacements. The labor is not too dissimilar from the sewer drainage labor, that was about 2.5. This is 2. Capital requirements, and again, working on through the other is, supplies and electricity. 7% almost exclusively from GVRD charges. We have a 14% increase, and we are basically eating that all up. We're not taking any increases ourselves in order to maintain our service, even though we have a 4% labor contract to meet. We are in part being able to do that because Coquitlam citizens are reasonably frugal with their water. So we're very lucky that we're able to bring our water purchases in under budget. That helps. And if there's any questions, I can take them now or just finish up. I just have one more slide.
Councillor Reid.
Just quickly, on the water, the I&I, whatever you called it, even though we're down in the developed part of our community now, I walk Hoy Creek all the time, and there's hardly any water in it this year. And when we capture some of this rainwater, do we ever divert it to the creeks to keep them full of water?
Sure.
for the fishes, because there's hardly any fishes, and the fishes are taller than the water, and it's not working out too well.
When it comes to Scott Hoy, I would have to have Dana here, but he's not here, but Mike may be able to comment. As I understand it, the specific issue with the Scott Hoy Creek system was how we did drainage master planning in the past, and that diverting water traditionally into the stream beds there has actually created some damage. And
you know, Mr. Susak, this could be for another day, because I know we're in a hurry here, but I really want to hear about that. And
oh, you've raised it? Well, I believe there's a staff answer coming in a...
Okay.
Yeah, well, when Westwood Plateau was, I guess, developed, and it's largely the tributary area for Hoy Creek, the tack that was taken at that time was to divert first flows out of the urban area out to Coquitlam River. So the drainage system is set up so that low flows run out to Coquitlam River rather than into the water courses. It's an opposite tack to what we took over on Burke Mountain. So there has been a watershed management study done for Scott and Hoy both, and one of the findings of that study is what we should reverse that method of operation so that low flows that are in the storm sewer system run out to the receiving waters, to Hoy Creek, and then just high damaging flows be directed out to Coquitlam
Okay, so
River.
have we done that? Have we reversed it?
Part of the 5-year plan is to start taking steps to reverse that process.
I don't want to wait 5 years. I'd like that done before we kill any more of the poor little guys.
It is in the plan to proceed with that.
Can you then, if you could take this as direction, perhaps to come back to your committee with when we can get on to this, because it was just deplorable this year. Absolutely.
No, hear you loud and clear. We will take a look at the priority of implementation for that program.
Thank you very
we're
much.
hearing an interest in Scott Hoy Creek works.
Priority A.
Thank you. Seeing no others, do you want to wind up now, Mr. Susak? I believe.
Just a very quick comment. Climate change is with us. Chances are, in the long run, over 15 years, 20, and beyond, it's going to have some implication. We will likely have to take a look at adaptation strategies. Other challenges, like we say, limitations on DCC revenues, and the Gateway and Evergreen programs are obviously going to keep us very busy. I think that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's the last formal presentation before the scheduled lunch. The lunch is scheduled to go to 1:30. It's, of course, the committee's decision if they would like to alter that time, but that is the next item on the agenda.
I'm hearing 105, 115. What's your preference?
105. 105 and in the other room?
Okay, we'll start with the time. If everyone's comfortable, we'll be reconvening at 1:05. The suggestion has been made that the meeting reconvene in the committee room rather than in here. We recognize that staff have been trying as much as possible to follow council's directive to have the public as engaged as possible using this room, because this room can be televised through webcasting. I will express my own selfish reasons. I can't sit anymore today, I'm afraid. In other words, if it reconvenes here, I won't be participating for this afternoon. I'll be having to watch the webcast on my back somewhere. So if we're all comfortable to move it in the other room.
Well, no, I've got my...
No? Okay.
To speak?
Please go ahead, Councillor Lynch.
Well, I guess the concern I have is we've started the meeting here. We're going to have 2 major presentations in the afternoon. The idea was that we wanted to give the public the opportunity to see what's going on. We consistently asked them to get more involved in our budget process, and now we've got like $30 million worth of staffing presentations coming forward afterwards. And unless we have some way of setting it up in there that we're going to have those presentations broadcast, I think that, for one thing, it sends a bad message to our public that only some of the ones we're going to be broadcasting. And on the other hand, I think it doesn't really give the credit due to the departments that are presenting, who perhaps would like to have the staff see. And Mr. Mayor, I think you could attend in here, even if you're not sitting in the chair. You've done it at Metro Vancouver meetings. You've done it. You'll be doing it in the other room anyway. So I'll go with the majority, but it's not my wish.
No, that's fine. It is true. This would be the first year we've ever managed to broadcast these meetings in any case. I didn't have the expectation that today's meeting was in here, and I know that a number of members of staff didn't have the expectation it was today's meeting was in here, and that a number of members of council have already expressed their concern with the meeting being in here because it does stifle the, from their perspective, some of the...
Which is entirely true, which is when this originally came forward, I suggested that that wasn't the best idea. In fact, the media frequently misrepresents these type of meetings because we don't have anything here saying whether it's a council meeting or a committee meeting or committee of the whole meeting, whatever. Somebody tunes in halfway through, they don't know. All they know is that there's a couple nameplates and they don't know what's going on. So there's a whole bunch of issues. But, you know, I raised those issues before.
Favor of it being in the other room or favor of it being here?
When we originally were talking about coming out here, I said that it was far more formal here, that the debate was better on the other side. It was one of the reasons we moved out was we thought it'd be better for staff. The main reason was to have these type of debates put on so that the public are able to see what's going on. So, but I was in the minority at that time, and when I came in this morning, I was here at 8:45. I had discussions with Councillor Skora and with some of our staff, and that was the decision was made, and I went with it. So we started the decision. We went with the decision to start the meeting here, and I think that we should be televising the entire day. If you want to have tomorrow's meeting in the other room, that's fine. Let's make that decision now. But this knee-jerk reaction of keep changing things all over, I'm growing weary of.
Well, I'm hardly going to characterize staff's decision as knee-jerk, but I'm going to go with whatever the council wishes. Is there a motion related to the venue? Anybody? Okay, we'll be back here then.
1:15?
1:15, thank you. Movie is recessed to 1:15. Oh, sorry? Oh. I'm sorry, Councillor Sikora.
Okay, the only thing that I said that, you know, the other room might be more comfortable, to me it doesn't matter one way or the other, but the fact is that this room I was a little uncomfortable because it's being televised and there's some comments about staffing and a few other things, and I think all that kind of stuff should be kept in camera, and there certainly could have been a lot more said, but you know, it's not comfortable for the department heads, it's not comfortable for the council members to discuss things that should be in camera. So that's the only reason. But to me, it doesn't matter whether it's in this room or the other room. I could care less.
No. We recess to 1:15.
Thank you.